General Motors has announced a 56% increase in earnings this year, attributing much of it to February's wildly successful launch of the GMC Whim, the first ever non-refillable disposable automobile. Debuting at a cost of $1,100 each, the vehicles are flying out of showrooms as quickly as dealers can stock them. Whim enthusiast Glenn Shriver.
I recently consumed 4 vehicles driving from my home to Daytona Beach for the first annual Whim Owners Convention. I've already collected all 8 colors.
Rival automakers are preparing to counter with their own lines of disposable cars, including the Ford Temporare and the Chrysler Dumper. The 2002 Mitsubishi Ditch will be unveiled later this year with a projected sticker price of $799. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
A long delay on today.
Yes, you've really cranked up those milliseconds.
Yeah. It's a 4-bar delay.
It is Free Talk Live. It is Sunday. And the telephone number, if you would like to call in and join the conversation tonight, is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. Let's see. Captain's log, star date 10292023. In the studio tonight, it is myself, the authentic Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass Buckshot Esquire, if you will.
Steve Classic.
And Nikki, if you will.
I will.
Okay,
Tune in.
At least for tonight, anyway.
Please do.
Yeah. Maybe I start calling you something else after tonight. I don't know. We'll try and invent a new nickname for you tonight, right? Callers, you want to invent
new name for Nikki?
A new nickname for Nikki? Yeah,
new Nikki name.
Is that even?
Who came up? Somebody came up with Nikki Moonshine.
That was me.
I thought it was Major Payne or somebody.
Oh,
but
I feel like that might have been.
I thought it was me, but maybe I'm taking credit for somebody else's invention.
Maybe.
But I only made that up for you because you brought in that clear jug,
my jar of moonshine.
that I'm, you're telling the listeners it was water, but I don't know.
It's like water.
It's water. Wink, wink,
this is
nudge,
fun
nudge.
Water.
Tune into the third hour and call Nikki with a question. Let me tell you something.
You're like, wow, she's really throwing back that moonshine. Oh my gosh.
It's a quart jar.
But still. Get it? Still? Moonshine? Still?
Yeah.
I got butt in there too. Yeah. But still. Whoa, that's weird.
But
I have, I don't know if it's because I've been saying the word still or something, but like I've been advertised now to on the social media where they sell these stovetop stills.
Oh, I have one.
Right. And they sell them for the purpose of, I don't know, sterilizing your water. Do you have bad home water?
Make your own distilled water.
And it's like, that's like selling.
Cheers.
That's like selling a bong as a tobacco pipe.
Yeah.
Right. These devices are for tobacco use only.
Yeah.
Right.
And nobody uses them for tobacco.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anyone like put tobacco in a water bong and smoke it? I have never seen this.
Nope.
No, unless they're doing like a spliff sort of deal where they mix it with weed. But imagine how gross that is. Just straight tobacco in a bong rip.
That's what I'm saying. Like
that is disgusting.
Horrible. Yeah,
gosh.
For entertainment purposes only.
So I'm certain that these stovetop stills are selling because people want to purify their water.
Right.
Yeah.
You need pure water.
The vases you buy at the gas station, you're like, vase, that looks a lot like a crack pipe.
Vase.
There's this.
This is a really small vase.
There's this either liquor or liqueur. I'm not sure what it is. I've never drank it, but it's called Galliano.
Oh,
Never
it's
heard
yellow.
of this.
And it comes in this bottle where the base of the bottle is wide, and it just gets taller
it's like
and thinner
3 feet tall.
as it goes up. And a friend of mine made a bong out of it.
Really?
And it was the most difficult bong because all the smoke would gather at the bottom. And then as you're trying to pull the slide or whatever, you have to pull all this big thing of smoke through a very
like
small tube. So like your lungs get filled up like faster somehow because and you can't clear it because it thins up instead of widens out. So it's poor design.
I've never had Galliano.
It looked cool. I've never had Galliano either, except for smoking out of the Galliano.
Yeah,
bong,
right.
You know, so.
Anyone who's had Galliano, please call in with a. If you can describe the taste
and why we would ever want to
a
try
yellow liquid.
Oh boy, I think I said 603-283-6160, but if I didn't, let me say it now: 603-283-6160. If you want to join us tonight, we've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. I've got stuff left over from yesterday that we never got to. I know we've at least one, if not two, number 2 stories tonight that we could choose from.
That's big.
So we'll figure that out as the night goes on. But we at least have one, that's for sure.
Well, if you read the title of each of the number 2 stories, maybe we can get some kind of an online vote. Or we could all just raise our hands here.
I think I'd rather take a host's vote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You are the captain,
like during the break or whatever, right?
We'll discuss.
And that kind of a thing. So, but then of course, specifically, I asked Richie Rich to continue chumming the hosts chat that we have going on with.
It's great
with content for Sunday because he's always surfing the web. He's got a day job where he's online all the time,
right?
And so he just happens upon these things. So he's just chumming that thing full of zany tabloid-esque freedom-oriented stuff.
He's the Free Talk Live news aggregator for the show.
I would be inclined to call him the Sunday co-producer.
Oh,
right?
All right.
Because he's not here.
Right.
But he still has an effect
on
the Sunday show.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm okay with that. But of course, we've got Steve Classic and Nikki in here tonight with me, and this is the we'll call it the Classic lineup. Because Classic is here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to lead tonight with this very bizarre sounding story. I have not read this in advance like I usually do. So we're gonna.
That's always the best, though. I love that. A good surprise.
We're gonna straight wing it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This from APnews.com. First ever Florida Man Games will feature beer belly wrestling and evading arrest obstacle course.
That's awesome,
man.
First ever Florida Man Games will feature beer belly wrestling. Now, I have a beer belly, but I've never employed it to wrestle with. I don't know what that means. What is that? Like, there have been times where, like, me and my bros were drinking beer, watching a game or something, right? And you do, like, the belly bump.
Bull moose kind
of thing. You do that, like, in a celebration, whatever kind of a thing. But I don't know what beer belly wrestling is, so we'll have to find that out if the article tells us.
Okay.
But I'm most interested in the evading arrest obstacle.
Yes.
Which you've also never done.
Yes.
I've never evaded arrest.
It's like you're at a party when you're in high school in the woods.
And
cops show up.
You're out of there.
And then you're like, you're running through the woods, dodging trees, jumping over stumps, jumping off of a rock.
Okay, so
like I made it to the house.
I have actually done the evading arrest obstacle course.
Yeah.
Although it wasn't an obstacle course, it was actually evading arrest in frickin' grade school, right? So like 8th
That's
grade.
impressive.
So like 8th grade, they're having some sort of a, I don't know, I think it was like a dance or whatever. You know how these grade school things, they're like, oh yeah, it's the end of your dance or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so you go just to hang out with all your friends and see what kind of trouble you can get into.
Yeah.
And so it was in like a church or something like that. And so we figured out real quick how to like sort of hide out in like one of the back hallways where they'd like receive all their shipments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so we're smoking weed back there.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. In 8th grade.
Wow.
And I brought some of these airplane bottles of booze, right? Just random selection.
Oh, little nips.
Right? And so I was selling / drinking those, right? And so
businessman.
I mean, I had an entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
What can I say?
Right.
I'm not the first libertarian type to have an entrepreneurial spirit.
And you were doing it without a permit.
I was totally doing it without a permit. And also,
Jesus would be proud.
And it was totally illegal too, right? I'm underage.
Yeah.
I'm serving underage people. I'm smoking marijuana, which was illegal at the time.
Yep.
And that kind of thing. And so somebody like ratted me out somehow, right? Apparently I was the only one who, was apt enough to get booze to supply these very thirsty 8th graders.
Yeah. Right. You're welcome.
That was premeditated.
And so I like go outside because I'm smoking a cigarette. I was smoking cigarettes in the evening.
Wow.
I go outside to smoke a cigarette, and I see these cops come up like to the front door. Now I'm around the back, under the side, and I started hearing them ask for me by name.
Whoa.
And I'm like, oh boy. I put the cigarette out, and I started just meandering away from the building, right, into the public street or whatever. And I hear somebody go, oh, I think that's him over there. And like the 2 cops, there's 2 of them, they turned around, they looked at me, and they're like, that guy? And the guy's like, yeah, that guy. I don't know who it was. And so they start running. And so I start running, right? Now, I'm young at this time.
You can outrun those guys.
And these guys were old and, well, speaking of beer bellies.
Yeah.
Right? And these were small-town cops, right? They're not going to run very far. But I ended up running down the road a couple of blocks, and then I took a right, and I went like 3 houses up, and then I ducked into the backyard of what was then my friend Pete's house, right, where his mom was or whatever, right? And I didn't know if they were home or not. I just knew the property well enough that I could so I basically took 2 rights as I was running away from these guys. They only saw me take 1. And so I hid behind like a shed or whatever. And I seen them continue go past. Right. And so as soon as they go past far enough, I walk out. There's a public trash can near the church or whatever. I start dumping out all my stuff into the trash can, and I go back to the dance.
Wow. To the scene of the crime.
To the scene of the crime. And then I show up and I go back in through that side door where we're all hanging out, and I go back in as if I were inside the whole time.
Right.
And so then the cops finally come back. They're like, oh, we lost him or whatever. And they come back. And somebody, one of the chaperones, the teachers, whoever it was, they're like, oh, were you looking for this guy? I'm like, hey, what's going on, guys? I heard you're looking for me. And they're like, oh, well, we need to search you and blah, blah, blah. We heard blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I don't have nothing on me. I've been here the whole time. I don't know why nobody could find me.
What's going on?
And so nothing happened.
That's funny.
I totally evaded arrest.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you could qualify for the Florida Man games.
I did.
And you were in Florida
I
for a
did
while.
lose out on the inventory, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty lame.
But I was like, better to ditch the inventory than to get busted.
Yeah, cut your losses.
You know. So, yeah, perhaps this would qualify you for the Florida Man games. We don't know.
Right.
Let's find out.
At least good training.
St. Augustine, Florida. I don't know where that is.
St. Augustine.
Florida. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Somewhere in Florida.
It's in St. Augustine, Florida.
It ain't the Olympics, but a group of Floridians plan to host competitions themed according to the collective antics of the beer-loving, gator-possessing, rap sheet-heavy, mullet-wearing social media phenomenon known as Florida Man.
Florida Man.
I didn't realize Florida Man had become such a meme. I mean, I did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, news stories. There's probably a website.
That's a lot of descriptive words for, one man.
Yeah.
One man.
He was one man. He had one desire, to win the Florida Man Games. Organizers of the Florida Man Games describe the competition as the most insane athletic showdown on Earth.
Wow. Intense.
The games will poke fun at Florida's reputation for producing strange news stories involving guns, drugs, booze, and reptiles, or some combination of the 4.
It's like my favorite things.
So far, I see no downside.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds great.
Among the contests planned for next February in St. Augustine, Florida, according to organizers, are the Evading Arrest Obstacle Course, in which contestants jump over fences, I didn't do any of that, and through yards, I did do that, while being chased by real police officers.
Whoa! You
man.
could qualify.
The Category 5 cash grab, in which participants try to grab as much money in a wind-blowing booth. We've seen that before.
I've seen
Pretty
that,
funny.
yeah.
And the self-explanatory beer belly wrestling. How is that self-explanatory, author?
AP. I don't know. It's beer belly wrestling. It's just
I still have
wrestling.
questions.
It's like sumo wrestling for
Like,
Florida
do you got to
guy.
tie your hands behind your back and just wrestle with the belly somehow? Or, you know, you got to, I don't.
Is there pudding involved or jello?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like
something,
soccer. You can't use your hands. You just have to wrestle with your belly.
Most importantly, is there beer involved?
Right? For Florida games, I'm sure Florida Man games.
You can call something a beer belly, but if there's no beer involved, is it really a beer belly?
If there's no beer in there, is it a beer belly?
Exactly.
I mean, you got to fill it up.
One would think.
I would say they'd probably have to drink a whole bunch of, beer and then do the wrestling.
And then wrestle?
Yeah.
Drunken wrestling?
Yep.
That's really all it is?
I think, yeah. And then if you win that competition, then you go on to drink another 6-pack to wrestle the next guy.
I want to come back to this, but we do have some callers on hold. Let's go to this unscreened caller. What's your name, please?
My name is Tom, and I live in New Hampshire. And I was thinking about that dude Robert Card out there in Lewiston, Maine, that real bad dude that committed non-aggression principle violations by going out and killing innocent people that didn't deserve it.
Oh, we're talking about the Maine shooter?
The shooter, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's hard to get into the minds of somebody like that. I suppose if you could been to college and learned and done enough research into the minds of somebody like that, then maybe you could be qualified as a cardiologist. But I was just thinking.
Wasn't his last name Card? Cardiologist? I'm not getting it. Is there a joke in there?
No, I'm making a pun. But anyway, the thing is.
I totally missed it.
Yeah, I was like, that's the heart.
Card?
It might have turned out better if somebody had talked some sense to him about you don't want to go out and attack anything other than the police forces of the hostile government.
I mean,
and then maybe we would have gone out and killed random cops.
I don't know if that's a better idea. And
that's not a good idea.
I always get weary of these sort of mass shooter things. This guy, I guess he was, recently in some sort of mental hospital, or he was having homicidal ideations before, like they knew this guy was already thinking in this direction.
Right, yeah.
But I always get curious, like, is this guy being coached by FBI agents?
MK Ultra?
Yeah, some MK Ultra stuff. I know some theories are like the SSRIs and other forms of antidepressants can sometimes give people homicidal ideations and, increase suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's right on the package insert.
It
if
is.
you look at Zoloft,
exactly.
the package, what is it? The mRNA shot had no information. Well, the Zoloft, if you look at all the information on that.
Yeah, there's a ton of
spells
side effects.
It right out. Spells it right out.
What's that, Tom?
Isn't it kind of like a homicidal ideation or suicidal ideation? If they use that as an excuse for like locking somebody in a mental institution and drugging them, isn't that kind of even worse than George Orwell's thought police? Because you're not just being locked up, you're being locked up and drugged.
Yeah.
And, it happened to one dude down in Virginia there, and on 14 December 2005, he got locked up and drugged because he was having no luck getting dates. And so he was having a bad day that way, and he wound up getting locked up and drugged. And maybe, arguably, they saved his life, but it probably wasn't worth it considering how much he appreciated it on 16 April 2007 when he shot up Virginia Tech, where the body count stands at 33. Somebody should have explained to him, look, these innocent people on the campus aren't the ones that forced you into a vehicle and took you to a mental institution. Cops did that, and if this is the law in Virginia, then, if he had gone out and killed cops, that would have punished the Commonwealth of Virginia for violating his rights.
I don't think that violence is ever the answer, even though those people did harm him. To me, that goes beyond acting in self-defense. At that point, that's like retaliation almost.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that is, an ethical thing to do, or definitely not a good idea, because then obviously you're just going to wind up life in prison or murdered on the street.
Well, if you get killed by enemy fire in combat on the battlefield, then that's not suicide. So, then as Thomas Jefferson said, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. So, you go straight to heaven if you get killed by enemy fire in combat on the battlefield, if all you're doing is fighting enemy targets and the police forces of a hostile
guess you could say
government.
that.
Sure, you can extract that type of a thing by reading from the Bible, but that it's still, yes, the government as an institution is constantly attacking you. So, anybody could claim any retaliation against that institution as self-defense when it comes to, the non-aggression principle. I take it a little bit further than that, and I just go, it has to be direct harm for me to defend myself. Right now,
what's going on? Yeah,
I take some other precautions to defend myself from attack from, the institutionalized versions of these government agencies, IRS, FBI, CIA, all these, TSA, whatever. Right. I take steps, to insulate myself or to prevent myself from interacting as much as possible with these agencies so that I'm not directly attacked. But I still think the answer is not violence. The answer is getting a bunch of freedom people together in a geographic area where we can just declare our independence and live free.
I think it's important to note that we can't really, we're comparing apples to oranges here. Being a freedom-minded person and wanting to, defend yourself against the state or, break away from the institution, whatever you want to do, and being a mentally ill person who wants to harm people and just shoot up random shopping malls.
And wasn't he a former military guy?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know the details.
Supposedly, I don't know.
I mean, maybe, probably. So now we're putting PTSD into the mix, probably. So all I know is this is a rather new occurrence.
Yeah.
The first mass shooting I can think of is probably Columbine.
Yeah.
What's going on is that the people, what's going on here, I think people view that we, the people of the United States, somehow are operating the government, and therefore the wrongdoing of the government.
No, I just can't accept that. The people
are going to have to pay the price.
The people who are doing these mass shootings of Walmarts and schools are not freedom-minded people.
Right.
That's not why they're doing this. So, I mean, it sounds like, Tom, you're kind of projecting your thoughts and feelings onto these people, and I want you to be really careful about doing that because you have to remember these are violent, mentally ill people who want to cause harm to others, to complete strangers. It's completely ill-placed. I would just, it's a real slippery slope you're kind of going down here. I would not. I don't want to be grouped with these people as a freedom-minded person. Right. Whoever this guy was, I doubt he was trying to act out against the establishment or the government. I think he had something mentally wrong with him. Maybe he had PTSD. Maybe he was on psych meds or whatever. Maybe he was being coached by the FBI. Who knows? It could be, a conspiracy theory too. But that wasn't his, plea for freedom.
It doesn't seem like it.
You know what I mean?
And,
it's different.
Hey, Tom, thank you for the call, man. We appreciate it. 603-283-6160.
I just don't know why we have to always get with the violent. You know what I mean? Every time he calls, he's like, let's, it's this is a liability a little bit.
I get that, some people have had it, right? They've had enough and they feel backed into a corner.
Absolutely,
and they don't know what to do. You know what I mean? And that's usually when bad decisions are made. When you're backed into a corner and you feel like you have no recourse, that's when bad decisions are made. Just a quick scan of this article from CBS News. Who was Robert Card? Confirmed details. He was 40 years old. He was from Bowdoin, Maine. I'm probably mispronouncing that.
Did he have a middle name?
Near Lewiston. Doesn't say at this point. He did have a military background. He was enlisted, at least in the Army Reserves, had an active military ID. He had a history of mental health issues. He had access to firearms, of course, etc., and so on. So that is about all we know at this point. 603-283-6160. We'll talk more about the Florida Man games, plus our number 2 story. Still to come. It's Free Talk Live.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya with a roundup of the biggest headlines from the past week. As Israel expands its ground operations in the Gaza Strip, countries at the United Nations General Assembly have overwhelmingly called for an immediate humanitarian truce between Israel and Palestinian militant Hamas. The resolution, drafted by Arab states and passed on Friday, demanded aid access to and protection of civilians in the besieged territory. Also stateside, the deadliest mass shooting of the year so far, a gunman killing 18 people in Maine during a rampage on Wednesday. A manhunt culminated on Friday. The suspect, Robert Card, was found dead with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Communities nearby were practically locked down for days. Maine's Governor, Janet Mills.
I'm so deeply saddened, as is every one of the 1.3 million people of this beautiful state. This city did not deserve this terrible assault on its citizens, on its peace of mind, on its sense of security. No city does, no state, no people. No words can truly or fully measure the grief of many people today.
A breakthrough on Capitol Hill. U.S. Congressman Mike Johnson became the 56th Speaker of the House of Representatives after all Republican Party lawmakers in the lower chamber voted for him. It brought to an end a weeks-long saga during which they struggled to coalesce around a single nominee, leaving the seat of power vacant and the heart of American democracy in a state of paralysis. In New York, Donald Trump was fined $10,000 for violating a gag order in his civil fraud trial. This is the second time Judge Arthur Engoron, who's overseeing the case, has fined the former US president over comments attacking court staff. Trump, his company, and his two sons are being sued for $250 million over allegations they inflated their assets. He's called the case a political witch hunt. Sally Patterson was there.
Speaking to reporters, Donald Trump called the judge very partisan, with a very partisan person sitting alongside him. These comments, Judge Engoron ruled, were a blatant violation of his gag order. Trump's been repeatedly warned against verbally abusing or threatening staff, including the court clerk. Last week, he was fined $5,000 and told he could be imprisoned if it continues to happen. That's not the first time the former president's gotten himself into trouble for criticising those involved in his court cases. Trump's team claims gag orders violate his First Amendment right to free speech.
On Friday, it was ruled that Mr. Trump's daughter, Ivanka, must testify in the case against her brothers and father. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
And Nikki,
I can't get any lower than that.
Will you go online right now, see if you can find some vocal lessons?
What did I do with all that
I thought
money?
that was good.
And we're back. I can't hit that note.
You either need to smoke cigarettes
or have some of that Galliano,
or
That'll do it.
which off-grid
Okay.
Angie says it tastes like licorice and it's delicious.
like black licorice,
Like Sambuca?
I don't know.
or like Jägermeister.
Why is it yellow?
I haven't
Yeah.
had any of that stuff. Oh, I did have Zambuca.
Yeah.
Zambuca once. That's awful.
Jägermeister,
It is, yeah.
Jägermeister tastes like black licorice,
Yeah.
but with a little bit of a sting, right? It's got alcohol.
I've
right?
never
So,
had that.
I used to drink a bunch of it. And,
Yeah, I like Jaeger.
but
Mix it with some Red Bull.
It's also Jaeger bombs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll give you a
it's
terrible night.
It's also well, I'll give you a good night. I'll give you a terrible morning.
Yeah.
Jägermeister is also why I hate black licorice now.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's why a lot of people don't like tequila.
And like black jelly beans.
Why don't you like tequila? Well, one time when I was in college, okay, you don't have to finish the story. That's it. I understand.
I'm weird like that. Like I know friends of mine who like if they drink tequila, they get mean and violent.
It does weird stuff to people
and all that kind of thing. But like if I drink tequila, I turn into a hippie. I'm like, I love you, man. I love everybody. Give me a hug, right? Like I don't. That violent, mean thing doesn't. Even when I'm drinking whiskey, that doesn't come through.
Oh yeah, well, whiskey's a whole different thing.
Like I don't,
especially Scotch. I mean, you're just like
maybe
that's
I just
like chill time.
Mellow out.
Yeah, chill time.
Maybe I just don't have the disposition, the personality for that meanness. You would think I would, in the the life that I've had. And
well,
like
I think if you're drinking Jack Daniels, maybe that puts you into that.
I can't drink Jack or Jim anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like just.
You've evolved.
Yes, but also I've noticed that the flavor is too robotic for me. Right, and what do I mean by that?
Really?
Well, you know how you go to any McDonald's anywhere on planet Earth, and a Big Mac tastes like a Big Mac, tastes like a Big
very
Mac,
like
tastes like a Big Mac.
factory produced.
So you can open one bottle of Jack Daniels or Jim Beam and taste it, sniff it. Open another bottle from a completely different area of the country.
10 years ago.
Open it, sniff it, taste it. It's identical.
You'd think even like the water that they use would be different,
Like
right?
they have
but they all come from the same factory, perhaps?
Yeah, they have their recipe and process down so far that like it's almost too identical for me. Right. When you drink something like 12-year Scotch, 15-year Scotch, or even I've been drinking what they call single pot still Irish whiskey.
Oh yeah.
Redbreast, Green Spot is another one.
Oh.
There's another one I can't remember.
It's boutique-y.
But like from bottle to bottle, it doesn't taste exactly the same. There's
batch to batch.
Yeah, there's slight variances in it. You buy a bottle of it one day, buy a bottle of it 2 years from now. It's not quite the same. It's
not exactly.
And also it's like made better because it's aged and all that kind of stuff, so it tastes different. Whereas Jack Daniels and Jim Beam are literally just
manufactured.
Just it's the fast food of booze.
Right.
And so I can't drink that crap.
Yeah.
Like Jameson to me now is bottom shelf.
Wow.
Right. That's where I start. Right. Like anything below that, I'm like.
Wait, you just like flexing on everybody or what?
I'm old and I've acquired taste. Apparently,
exactly.
I have preferences.
You got to be a certain age to drink whiskey.
Yeah,
you're not allowed to have preferences.
Like Scotch, especially.
Yeah.
Like
that's discriminatory.
Tequila's easy to get into when you're young.
To kill you.
But Scotch, I think you got to be at least 40 years old to enjoy Scotch.
Well, speaking of crap, let's go to Turd Ferguson calling from wherever the heck you're at, Turd.
Yeah, guys. So check this out. I'm reading this book right now called
That's impressive.
The Deficit. Yeah, well, I read a lot. It's called The Deficit Myth: Modern Monetary Theory and the Birth of the People's Economy. It's by someone named Stephanie Kelton. And this is like the stupidest book I've ever read. I mean, this book is just terrible. It's like a bunch of let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya bullcrap. But I mean, I'm like barely halfway through this book, and I've just got hundreds of notes and highlights here. And I mean, I don't think I've gone 2 pages of this book without highlighting something stupid or that didn't make sense or was just plain wrong.
Do you do that when you're watching TV too? You're watching a crappy TV show. You're like, oh, this show sucks. Let me make some notes. Let me, put a 3-ring binder together and take, do you do that?
TV is for broke beta males, so I never watch TV. But so this is what really confuses me about this book, because she seems to be inherently confused about what causes inflation, from what I can tell. And we know, she seems to think it's this like weird combination of potentially aggregate demand and government spending and all this nonsense. And then she proposes to deal with inflation by maybe raising taxes or something. So basically her solution for a painful period of inflation for people is to make things more painful for them.
That just sounds like a college textbook.
Harvard educated.
Yeah, it basically is. I mean, it's basically a college textbook written by a really stupid person. But here's what I don't understand. Because this person actually does teach college economics, by the way.
Oh, jeez.
And
we're doomed.
And we don't have to guess that the money supply and expansion of it is what causes inflation, because we know through the realized inflation versus predicted inflation data from the Fed using the equation of exchange, we know that that the money supply causes inflation because the data matches. I mean, the numbers on the graph match up.
Yeah.
So that's mathematical empirical proof that the money supply causes inflation. I don't understand how these college professors can see this data and know about the equation of exchange and quantity theory of money and then but just be like, no, I don't believe it. Like that's the part that really doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean?
They're getting paid to lie, maybe. You know another word for the other word for inflation? You know what another word for inflation is? Growth.
No.
Growth.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we're growing the economy, which basically means,
we're inflating.
Yeah, we're inflating. Exactly. Oh, it's growth. It's good.
Right. Exactly.
Negative growth.
Yeah, and well, yeah, and GDP and money velocity and money supply are the only things based on the mathematically speaking that affect inflation at all. So
yeah,
so this book is
it's funny.
Yeah,
What's the name of the book again, Turd?
It's called The Deficit Myth: Modern Monetary Theory and the Birth of the People's Economy. Yeah. It's by Stephanie Kelton. I heard about this book from the Majority Report, that show on YouTube. It's Sam Cedars' show, I guess. And by the way,
thought you didn't watch TV.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
It's on TV.
What's the difference between a TV show and a YouTube show?
YouTube's on the internet. But check
television's on the internet.
We're on the internet. Are we a radio show?
Good point. Okay, so what I'd like, and I guess Ian and Mark did debate Sam Cedar a long time ago, but you guys should invite him back on the show to debate, because he won't take my call from what I can tell. I call his show, and then I spend 2-3 hours on hold, and he never takes the call.
Can't imagine why he wouldn't want to talk to you.
Well, to his credit of his staff, Emma Vigland actually has taken my call. She's hung up in the middle of my call both times I've ever talked to her. I guess she can't refute what I'm saying, or she just hates me. But she actually, to her credit, has taken my call. But Sam Cedar won't. And it would be nice for you guys to have him on your show so I can call in and ask him about the equation of exchange and quantity theory of money, because I'd like to know what his thoughts are about that.
Hey, Turd.
Or if you guys...
Hey, Turd. Thanks for the call, man. So
you're hanging up on he's complaining about the other host hanging up on.
I want to just hit this for Turd. Turd, this one goes out to you.
There's the dump button.
Yep.
Hang on, nobody can hear us yet. I'm gonna wait for it to.
There we go.
People should be able to hear us again. I just wanted to get, when Turd calls, I like to flush him out.
Yeah, you know how you pour one out for the homies?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
what we
Turd.
do for a flush.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go around with a name like Turd Ferguson and not get flushed, right? So,
yeah, kind of asking
coming up
for
our
it.
number 2 story.
Although I will say
that actually was our number 2 story.
That was the number 2. So now we got 3 number 2 stories.
And we didn't talk about it during the break either.
Yeah, we didn't.
I will say that first of all, MMT, Modern Monetary Theory. It's just that. It's theory. Near as I can tell, the author of the book Turd mentioned is what they call a Keynesian economist. So Robert Keynes.
I told you, a college professor.
Yes, Robert Keynes is the
paid to lie.
Yeah, I don't know why he's the reigning economist, because he's wrong. But here's what helped me grasp the economy. Right when you start talking to people like, so what do you know about the economy? People are like, I don't really.
The stock market is good.
Yeah, right. And most people just don't know. They don't get into it. They don't, research this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're correct. They don't need to. Here's all you need to know about economics. Supply and demand.
Right. I need something, you're selling something, I'll buy it.
That's it. That's all you need to know. Everything else is hogwash. Right? If somebody's trying to tell you that, you see, we have to have inflation and we have to have taxation.
Right, we're going to grow our way out of it.
Blah, blah, blah. No, they're full of crap. You don't need any of that stuff. What you need is to get the heck out of the way, specifically government, and let the market do its job. The market will take care of all of the problems that it encounters by itself. It is the most beautiful creation. It is an extension of the network effect. We've already seen the network effect improve our lives by 10, 20, 100 times, whatever it is, whether it's the telegraph or the internet. Right? These are all extensions of the network effect, all extensions of the market. The market is just human beings transacting with each other for their mutual benefit.
Right.
And if there's no mutual benefit, then a deal's not made. And so that's really all you need to know about economics.
Right. It reminds me of the story you were talking about the fax machine. Like one fax machine can't do anything. Two fax machines can just do two things. But when you do three fax, like it started with, I think you had a story about fax machines and the effect of the more people that have these things, the more communication that can go
right.
on.
It was about
the fax machine.
It was about the numbers, right? The telephone numbers
or
themselves.
Maybe it was telephone numbers.
Right, yeah. So what happens is the more devices that get invented that require a phone number, the more phone numbers that need to exist. And so at some point, the phone companies ran out of numbers.
Right.
Because of pagers and faxes and cell phones and all that kind of a thing. And so they had to start doing what they call area code splits. So if you live in, we're in New Hampshire 603, right? Now, New Hampshire's not populated enough for them to have done a split here.
Unless everyone has two pagers.
But if they ever did need to do an area code split, they would probably just separate, we'll call it the greater Manchester area, right? That whole southeastern corner of New Hampshire where
Boston's trash can.
The city is, all the city folk are.
Right.
And that would be its own area code, and then the rest of New Hampshire would remain 603.
Right.
And so now they'd have a whole nother...
No, I think it would be the other way around.
They'd have a whole... Well, maybe it would. I don't know. But either way, they'd have a whole new area code and a whole new bank of, 4, 5, 6, 7-digit, numbers, combinations to choose from once they do issue a new area code. So, yeah, it creates problems having devices with numbers. And so now there's there's Google Voice. There's all these VoIP companies doing phones and phone stuff, and there's numbers that businesses can buy that only that people can, like you and I, can text into, and it's fielded by a call center full of customer service reps or whatever, right? And they can respond to those, right, in a group way through like a ticketing system that's unknown to anyone on the other side. You think you're talking to Bob at such and such company, but you're talking to like Greg, who has a pseudonym because he doesn't want his real name used on his job or whatever, right? Because he's got a stalker from 5 years ago or something, right? And maybe he only picks up half the conversation before his shift is over and somebody else pipes in, finishes the conversation for him, all unknown to you.
But how do you text this word to this 5-digit number? Where does that go?
To that number.
Well,
a lot of it's automated,
who has the number 5173?
Programmed.
Yeah. I mean, is it just a text forwarding to a
so usually what that is I'm not sure how they get away with doing like a less than 10-digit number.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
The only way I know of to get around that is to do a non-area code number, which means your marketing has to be targeted at an area that is only going to text that from that area. So in 603, New Hampshire, right, the advertiser would only be advertising to people in New Hampshire. Right?
Gotcha.
But I don't know, like I've seen that on like nationally televised programs too. They're like, to vote, text blah blah to 7172.
Right.
And you're like,
where's
okay.
Whose phone number is 7172?
Yeah. So
I want that phone number.
I think these are things that you can just buy from certain providers that will allow you to do that one time or that kind of a thing.
603-555.
Oh man, the 555s is that's an interesting one. They developed that specifically for TV and film.
Yeah.
So that, folks wouldn't call actual phone numbers, right? So the phone companies got together and said, hey, let's just use 555, and nobody ever issue phone numbers with 555. And they're like, oh, okay. So you'll never see a fax machine or a cell number or whatever with like area code and then 555, right? And then 4 digits after that.
I think I'm going to start doing that. I'm just going to tell what's your phone number? 603-555. Just tell a marketer, hey, what's your phone number?
So anyway, let's get back to
the captain continues.
Let's get back to this Florida Man bit because I want to know more about these Florida Man games. So if you tuned in our first segment, you would know that we're talking about this article from the AP. First ever Florida Man games will feature beer belly wrestling and evading arrest obstacle course. Organizers of the Floorman Games described the competition as the most insane athletic showdown on Earth.
Whoa.
It isn't just a competition, it's a one-of-a-kind Floridian spectacle.
Spectacle.
As
I
if-
love that. I love a good spectacle, you know?
As if Florida isn't a spectacle enough, right? Just even having this legendary Florida man be associated with it. Can you imagine if, like, there was, like, a New Hampshire man, or any other state,
Yeah,
right?
what would you? It's like skiing.
Beard growing.
You know what state I never hear about? Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's a place, huh?
I never hear about
So
that.
I was actually thinking about this the other day because I was sometimes I just like looking at maps. I don't know. I'm kind of a nerd, so I do stuff like that sometimes. And I'm looking at like the central United States, and I'm just like, what is it like to live in Kansas?
Oh, dude.
Flyover country. It's all everything's
but, like,
square.
It's
Yeah,
flat.
that's the thing. Like all
Square
over
and
there.
flat.
Like, is there anything there?
Tornadoes.
And corn?
Cornfields, yeah.
And corn.
Soybeans.
And ranches.
So-
And there's a couple of cities, right? You
Yeah.
know, every state's got a couple.
And it's like you have to drive like 2 hours to get anywhere.
In a
'cause it's
straight
super
line.
rural. In a straight line, that would drive me crazy.
I've had the mispleasure of driving through Montana several times.
Oh, but I bet it's beautiful though, right?
It's just exactly what we're describing Kansas like. It's flat.
Really?
It's flat.
No
It's boring.
trees.
Big sky state.
It's the exact same scenery forever.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to be like a really beautiful place.
Montana is like the longest state
Maybe
to drive through.
Oh, I'm sure.
From
It looks
east
like
to west
it.
or west to east or whatever.
Uh.
Yeah, it's the like when you leave. Like I've
In
had
a
to
straight
drive.
line.
Yeah, I had to drive from Seattle to Minneapolis on a number of occasions when I lived in Seattle, and so, holy crap! Like you leave Seattle and you get into the rest of Washington State, which kind of looks like Montana. They got 3 seasons on eastern Washington, the 2/3 of it that aren't on the other side of the mountains.
Yeah.
And so, but it only takes like 6 hours or something to get
Yeah.
across Washington State. So then you get into Idaho, and it takes like 30 minutes to get through
Because
just
you're
that
doing
one
It's the
tip
skinny
of
part.
Idaho.
Yeah, it's the skinny
and
part.
you're like, oh, I've already made it through 2 states. This is wonderful. And then you hit Montana,
It's like 12 hours.
and that's most of your trip,
yeah.
right? You don't get to cross another state line for like 2 days or something, right? Depending on
Dang.
what you're, the last time I went through, not the last time, the first time I went through, I hit Montana at daybreak, and Montana has these speed limit signs that say speed limit night 65, and that's it. I don't know if it's still there, but they had no daytime speed limit.
They're like, you're not supposed
So-
to drive through here during the day.
Yeah.
So
Only
I
drive at night.
No, I hit Montana at daybreak. I had just fueled up as I got into Montana at the border, and so I just stepped on the gas.
Yeah, you're like, oh, sweet, there's no speed limit
I was
anymore.
driving like a 1985 Chevy
Yeah.
Citation, and like the speedometer only went up to 85. So like
Yeah.
I have no idea how fast I was going. I buried that needle.
And it still took you 2 days.
It still and was
5 miles
boring.
an hour.
I only stopped to like use the John and grab some snacks.
Yeah.
Maybe
But-
some trucker speed.
You know what? I think there's a lot of states like that where if you're just on the interstate, it's like, wow, this is like the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get off and you kind of go to some of the,
The byways.
sites and, you look around and do something else, some maybe touristy stuff or whatever, go on a hike. It's actually probably quite beautiful because I always heard that Montana was beautiful. But maybe, I don't know what route you were taking, but
I've driven through it several times.
Bad review from Captain.
And I also took a train through it as well.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, well, I'm on the train this time. Maybe I'll just sit at the window or in the dining car or whatever, and like I'll just watch the beautiful Montana scenery as it goes by. For
and there
2 days.
wasn't?
It's like a
And
cartoon.
no, it
It's
was-
the same thing.
I swear to God, it was the same thing, just rolling back and forth. Same tree would go by, same
You start to
hill.
question your existence.
Yeah,
you're
you're
like, am
like,
I really here?
Is the train going in circles?
Is this
or-
an illusion?
And then finally you get
This is all a
into one
figment
of the
of your
Dakotas or whatever.
imagination.
And, yeah. So
I mean, I couldn't see, North Dakota being better.
have you ever flown over the United States during daylight, like West Coast to East Coast
Yeah.
or something like that?
Yeah.
But usually south, though. I'm usually going to like Mexico or like Southern California, like somewhere in that pocket. I've never been to the Pacific.
The Pacific.
Pacific Northwest.
Could you be more Pacific?
But yeah, I've never been up there. So whenever I'm flying over, it's
I've never heard
normally
anybody mix
like a
those up
diagonal.
before. That's pretty sweet. Usually most people are like,
Can you be more Pacific?
Yeah.
No.
I lived in the Pacific Northwest for 22 years.
I can be dumb in very unique ways. I pride myself on that.
You create
Thank you.
new and
Thank
unique
you.
ways to be dumb.
Yep. It's a skill.
Nikki, we love you, man. You're not going anywhere.
Nope.
You can't dumb your way out of this job.
Nope.
What if there's a Florida...
That's how I got this job.
I know how you blondes work.
Yep.
There's a Florida woman contest. Maybe.
A Florida woman. Named Nikki? What? No. Oh, sorry. The Florida man concept crept into the nation's consciousness a decade ago. I think it's been more than a decade.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
With the @FloridaMan Twitter account. I
don't know if that was the start of it. Maybe that.
Is Twitter 10 years old? Is it still a thing?
Oh,
I
it
don't
has
even
to
know.
be
Is there
older
still
than that.
Yeah, Florida Man has to be way older than that.
Well,
do you
Twitter,
remember,
too, has
do
to
you
be
remember
older than that,
the
right?
website Imgur? IMGUR?
Yeah. They probably still have that, right?
I think it still exists. I haven't been there in a long time. But, I remember, that's predating Twitter and all that kind of crap, I believe. And they had memes about Florida Man long before there was a @Florida Man Twitter account.
Yeah.
But at any rate, the account with the tagline, "Real-life stories of the world's worst superhero," has been home to headlines such as, "Florida man firebombs garage that impounded his car, hits his own vehicle," and "Florida man tried to pay for McDonald's with weed."
Actually, that's not a bad idea because, look at
Probably
the people
hold
that...
its value.
Yeah, way better. And look at the people that work at McDonald's. I mean, they're like, I'll take that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You think that 16-year-old kid doesn't want your gram of weed for a McChicken? They sure do.
Yeah, they probably do. General admission tickets to the event are going for $45. So that a Florida man can afford them.
So a Florida man can afford them.
Two former stars of the 1990s television show American Gladiators have agreed to serve as referees.
Really?
Wow.
Oh, that's good.
A St. Augustine resident is behind the games. Pete Melfi, Melfi, owner of the 904 Now, a media outlet covering St. Johns County. "We thought, how can we really play on these Florida Man headlines that we hear so much about? Someone gave me the idea to make it into an athletic competition," Melfi told the Orlando Sentinel. "It's going to be a wild day of mud games and Florida-style obstacle courses. It's going to really be an opportunity to live that Florida man life for a day."
Wow.
Cool.
They should have a hurricane machine, too, that you have to hold on to a stop sign while the thing is...
I wonder if we can do a remote, show or have somebody go down there
Right,
and
yeah,
call in.
how they
Reporting
send
live from
news
Florida Man
reporters.
Gate.
Yeah. "I'm here on the scene, Captain, at the Florida Man competition. We're watching the evading arrest competition right now."
There are two real police officers. They're asking me questions.
Oh, man. Would be even better. Mini Florida Man.
Oh.
Fun-sized. I believe fun-sized is the politically correct term.
Not midgets?
No.
Midget? Okay. Fun size wrestling?
Yeah. I saw midget wrestling, so I didn't see fun size wrestling.
But it was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up, including a number 2 story. We'll figure out which one and hopefully have it for you soon.
No, it's not your imagination. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. Same cost, smaller package. How rampant is this now? Merriam-Webster's dictionary has added the word shrinkflation. Official definition, the practice of reducing a product's amount or volume per unit while continuing to offer it at the same price. That cereal box is thinner. Fewer chips, more air in that bag. Fewer pills in the bottle. Shop smart for brands you want the way you shop around for the cheapest gasoline. Price per gallon is posted right there on the sign, and you'll find unit price, possibly in smaller print, right next to the item price in the supermarket. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks on the blog at andyoucanquoteme.com.
The crimes of the state.
Eleutheromania. the insatiable desire for freedom. It's the new 3-song heavy metal EP from Captain Kickass. Available now on your favorite music app or get it directly from CaptainKickass.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya with a roundup of the biggest headlines from the past week. As Israel expands its ground operations in the Gaza Strip, countries at the United Nations General Assembly have overwhelmingly called for an immediate humanitarian truce between Israel and Palestinian militant Hamas. The resolution, drafted by Arab states and passed on Friday, demanded aid access to and protection of civilians in the besieged territory. Also stateside, the deadliest mass shooting of the year so far, a gunman killing 18 people in Maine during a rampage on Wednesday. A manhunt culminated on Friday. The suspect, Robert Card, was found dead with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Communities nearby were practically locked down for days. Maine's Governor Janet Mills.
I'm so deeply saddened, as is every one of the 1.3 million people of this beautiful state. This city did not deserve this terrible assault on its citizens, on its peace of mind, on its sense of security. No city does. No state, no people. No words can truly or fully measure the grief of many people today.
At the White House, 2 major visitors this week. Firstly, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. He and his US counterpart Joe Biden discussed areas of cooperation from technology to clean energy and defence, with an AUKUS nuclear-powered submarine deal a priority for Canberra. Caroline Malone reports.
The US and Australia have an enduring alliance that upholds democratic values, said President Biden as he greeted Australian Prime Minister Albanese at the White House. The two have deals on everything from innovative tech and AI to the supply of minerals and clean energy and maritime infrastructure with undersea cables that also helps Pacific nations. The two compared notes on the Indo-Pacific and security and joint concern over China's increasingly aggressiveness in the region. Canberra is expecting a delivery of nuclear-powered submarines as part of the AUKUS deal, as long as Congress approves it. Both nations are also pushing for diplomacy with China.
Speaking of China, Foreign Minister Wang Yi met President Biden on Friday after meeting US Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Thursday. Washington wants Beijing to help ensure the Israel-Gaza conflict doesn't spill over into other countries, and China has expressed a willingness to work together. Here's Caroline Malone again.
The fact that US President Biden met with China's Foreign Minister Wang is a sign of progress, especially considering the cancelled trips and deteriorating relations of the past. Ahead of Wang's earlier meetings with US Secretary of State Blinken, he expressed optimism for constructive and forward-looking talks. The State Department said the two discussed a range of bilateral, regional and global issues, including areas of difference as well as areas of cooperation. But missing was any confirmation that China's President Xi Jinping would attend APEC in San Francisco in November.
Down Pennsylvania Avenue, a breakthrough on Capitol Hill. US Congressman Mike Johnson became the 56th Speaker of the House of Representatives after all Republican Party lawmakers in the lower chamber voted for him. It brought to an end a weeks-long saga during which they struggled to coalesce around a single nominee, leaving the seat of power vacant and the heart of American democracy in a state of paralysis. In New York, Donald Trump was fined $10,000 for violating a gag order in his civil fraud trial. This is the second time Judge Arthur Engoron, who's overseeing the case, has fined the former US president over comments attacking court staff. Trump, his company, and his two sons are being sued for $250 million over allegations they inflated their assets. He's called the case a political witch hunt. Sally Patterson was there.
Speaking to reporters, Donald Trump called the judge very partisan, with a very partisan person sitting alongside him. These comments, Judge Engoron ruled, were a blatant violation of his gag order. Trump's been repeatedly warned against verbally abusing or threatening staff, including the court clerk. Last week, he was fined $5,000 and told he could be imprisoned if it continues to happen. That's not the first time the former president's gotten himself into trouble for criticising those involved in his court cases. Trump's team claims gag orders violate his First Amendment right to free speech.
On Friday, it was ruled that Mr. Trump's daughter, Ivanka, must testify in the case against her brothers and father. More global news to end off. The US military carried out airstrikes on Iranian-backed militant groups in eastern Syria following recent drone and rocket attacks on American troops based in Iraq and Syria. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Tides are caused by the moon. The moon's gravitational pull also sucks up the feces and urine of the ocean floor, dumping it in the intertidal zones. The tide goes out, revealing pus-filled cysts known as tide pools, while the moon itself remains hypocritically pristine. Crabs are one of the many disgusting denizens of intertidal pools. They feed on feces and corpses with their demonic mouths. Scuttling hither and thither, they compete relentlessly for the juiciest excrement. Finding a walrus turd is truly nirvana for these abhorrent beasts. After accumulating too much filth to move, crabs bathe themselves in the ocean. Waste floods off the crab's exoskeleton and back into the tide pools as the cycle of begins anew.
This is the Onion News Network.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
We should start a band.
I have nothing more to say. You've said it all.
And we're back.
I couldn't have done that any better myself, even though I was part of it. Oh, wow. Who put the quarter in classic?
Yeah, it sounds like the band Zebra from the 80s.
You know,
He's been practicing.
You know, like that terminology is going to be lost.
What?
Who put
Band
the
from the
quarter
80s?
in? Right?
Oh,
Because, like, what does it
yeah.
even
Oh.
refer to?
A jukebox?
Right?
Yeah.
Like, does anything even take a quarter anymore? Like, maybe a parking meter?
Not even.
right?
Not even. Most of them are you gotta pay on your phone.
Oh, that's true.
Shopping cart at Aldi's.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, that's
All right,
a good one.
All right. What about the stupid little horse riding thing in front of the grocery store?
Yeah, I think those
Do
take-
those
maybe-
still exist?
They have one in
yeah,
Market
I think
Basket.
So.
Do they?
Yeah.
In Swansea.
Yeah, the classic Market Basket yellow horse.
Yeah.
It's a staple of my childhood, actually.
Huh.
So.
It's worth a quarter.
Does it still take a quarter, though?
I think so.
Or is it like $1 in quarters? Right?
But that's how the gumball machines are now. Now they're like 50 cents. I'm like, didn't you used to be able to get a gumball for like a penny?
I saw one. It was
Penny candy,
It was whatever
you know?
the little trinkets that come in the little plastic
bubbles,
egg or bubble or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was $1.50.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
That's steep. You're like, chill out, man. That's a temporary tattoo.
Like, I remember asking, a parental unit or a grandparent or something like, can I have a quarter for the gumball machine? Can I have a gumball for the gumball machine? And they, okay, you bug them enough. They get here, fine, shut up, have a quarter.
Yeah.
But like now,
I imagine being like
$1.50? Get a job, kid.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like buying the what is it, the 100 plastic pennies for $1.50 or
yeah, for like $4.
$1.29.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for 100 plastic pennies.
100 plastic pennies, $1.29. It is Free Talk Live. The telephone number here is 603-283-6160 if you'd like to join us. Nikki, you stepped out.
I did.
During the break, and so
you lost your vote.
I'm going to give you.
I lost my vote.
No,
okay.
no. I'm going
That's
to give
all right.
you.
Am I the tiebreaker?
Oh,
Well, because if you guys voted for the same one,
Sure,
then...
you're the tiebreaker.
Yeah, you are the tiebreaker.
whatever.
Oh, come on.
So,
Did you guys vote for different ones? I need to know.
well, you're the tiebreaker. So,
They were both submitted by me, but
Okay.
Captain wanted
All
the
right.
newest one. I wanted the older one.
and
Let's hear it.
So, the first one is the Poonami.
Yep. Already a fan of that one.
And
so.
the other one is about holding in your poo at work.
Well, you shouldn't do that because that's like the best part about work is getting paid to poop.
Well, it says a doctor says it's bad for you.
Which of these two stories would you like to be the number 2 story tonight?
Yeah, we'll go with the Poonami.
Poonami it is. All right.
Dang. All right.
All right, this from dailymail.co.uk. Britain's being battered by a Poonami. Battered. Is that really the right terminology? Unprecedented outbreak of diarrhea.
Unprecedented. Is there ever a precedented?
We've set a precedent for a certain amount of diarrhea that's acceptable. This is unacceptable.
Unprecedented outbreak of diarrhea causing parasite that can spread in swimming pools alarms health chiefs.
So why are people pooping in the swimming pool?
Because they're drinking
Code
swimming
Brown?
pool water.
Code Brown?
Code Brown.
Somebody played the Brown note. I'm certain of it. I don't know. Let's go to the story and find out. This was written by somebody and published at some time. Britain is being battered by an unprecedented outbreak of diarrhea causing parasite. Cases of Cryptosporidium. I'm not even sure how Cryptosporidium. Not even sure how I knew how to pronounce that, but I did. I've apparently read that word prior to tonight.
All right.
Cases of Cryptosporidium, which can survive in swimming pools for up to a week, are 3 times higher than normal. Health chiefs are baffled as to the source of the outbreak, which has spread to every corner of the nation. I assume they're talking about Britain, because it says Britons in the beginning. Anyway, and I don't think Britain has corners.
4
really.
corners.
I don't think so either. No,
Well,
not
if
really.
the world is flat, they might. Here we go.
Oh boy! All right, I'm going to end this. I'm going to end this flat Earth conversation right here and right now. Okay.
Okay.
All of the water that exists on planet Earth is free from carbon dioxide. Therefore, the Earth is flat.
Correct. Yes.
Oh, man.
It's not carbonated. It's
Right.
flat.
Right.
So there you go.
I have friends in all 4 corners of the globe.
Flat Earth, it's real because it's uncarbonated. Yeah. The Flat Earth Society has offices all around the globe.
In all 4 corners of the globe.
They literally advertised
Yeah.
that at some point. It was on like
Oh,
their
that's
letterhead
funny.
or on their website or something. Anyway. Health chiefs are baffled as to the source of this outbreak. Early investigations suggest the spike is linked to swimming, including in pools.
Well, if that's where they're finding it.
I mean, where else are you
yeah,
going to swim?
duh.
I guess
Yeah.
you could swim in the ocean, the lake.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Officials investigating the unusual cluster of Cryptosporidium cases believe it could be linked to the holidays abroad, as dozens of affected Brits had traveled to Spain and other Mediterranean counties.
Yeah.
Mediterranean counties. Well, I mean, you mean countries? Counties? No, they're on holiday, right? So they get
Countries.
Countries, not count. Yeah.
Other Mediterranean countries. Then, of course, they have a chart, and it's got lines and squigglies on it, and it says like expected range, and it's way down low.
What's the background of the chart?
Unprecedented.
No,
it's a toilet, and it's like the lower half of a man walking into a toilet.
man.
The lid is up. Only one of the 2 lids, so like the lid is up, but
Yeah.
then the butt
Seat
lid is
is down,
down.
yeah.
The butt lid.
The seat, yeah. The seat, also
thank you.
known as the butt lid.
Yep.
I'm making up things as we go. There's like the lower half of a man walking in. He's got his hands like as if he's unbuckling because he's got to go.
Yeah, quick.
And that's all the background.
We're just
really
happy
shows.
he made it out of the pool.
He's
dressed.
He's in long slacks. So if he was in the pool, it's also unprecedented.
Bad infographic.
Totally. It says 2,411 cases of the stomach bug have been spotted across the That's the UK for those of you.
The uck. The uck.
Or yuck, if you want to pronounce it.
Yeah.
With weekly notifications peaking at 450 towards the end of September, triple the level normally expected.
I'm wondering if normally this sort of thing is like due to foodborne illness. Like normally it's like the romaine lettuce, right? It's always the salmonella is always in the
kale, man. It's in
the
the
kale, the romaine, So I'm wondering.
As well as diarrhea, cryptosporidium can cause vomiting, stomach pains, and fever. Side effects include growth of a third eye. No, I'm just kidding.
Blinky.
I was just reciting some drug commercial I saw once. The chlorine-resistant parasite is spread by contaminated fecal matter entering the mouth, such as while swimming.
Don't repeat that.
This is why I don't swim in public pools.
And it beats the chlorine, which is terrible.
Maybe it's the result of Bart Simpson for the last 30 years telling people to eat his shorts.
Yeah, they're finally doing it.
Finally, there's some effect to that. Traces of dried poo can wash off an infected swimmer's, rear end. Infected people can shed up to 100 million cryptosporidium germs in a single bowel movement, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Swallowing just 10 is enough to get it. 10 cryptosporidii. Sporidiums? Sporidiates? Cryptosporidiates. A UK health security agency investigation into the outbreak said the increase was observed in August when there was a rise in routine stool samples analyzing cryptosporidium infections.
Wait, what? A routine?
Yes. Am I the only one that's not doing a routine stool sample?
Okay, so look,
a security agency was doing that?
This is part of what makes Britain great.
Yeah. Is that the UCK?
The UCK, the UCHSA, the UK HSA, the UK Health Security Agency, said the increase was observed in August when there was a rise in routine stool samples analyzing cryptosporidium infections. Now, does that mean they were just taking more samples?
Well, it sounds routine.
That's what it sounds, yeah. An increase in routine samples. Oh, so an increase in the bacteria.
How disturbing is it that government has a routine of taking stool samples?
Nothing else to do with their
I would
money.
hope that it's the what is their thing called? The Public Health Service?
It's
but it's security something.
The UK Health Security Agency, UKHSA, is their acronym.
Health security.
Yeah.
Wow.
Health security.
Health security. Yeah. Ooh, be
Well,
afraid
they
for
might
your
be looking
security.
for the cerveza sickness because I think a lot of the cerveza sickness was they were testing septic systems and sewer treatment plants for cerveza.
So this is just
Beer?
sort of out of nowhere.
No, the 19.
Just sort of out of nowhere.
Cerveza sickness.
Have you guys
Okay.
ever heard of parvo?
No.
So
Is it like,
that
is it
sounds
Galliano?
familiar.
Parvo is something that generally pets will come down with, like a dog, for example. It is a result of, how sometimes dogs eat dried poo.
Yeah, they're
I
into
got a good
that.
story about that.
Yeah. So,
Snickers.
so this girl I know from some time back contracted parvo.
Ew.
From the dog?
No pets.
Oh.
Eh.
Hey.
Doesn't know how she got it.
Yeah, doesn't know. Okay.
At least according to her.
Skippy.
But I'm told that it's this exact same method. Like if you ingest something,
Yes. Oh, I'm sure.
and
So-
that's how you get it. And, she had to take some drugs or whatever. And it was,
Yeah.
fine.
Was she over in the UK?
She was not. She was not. She was,
Are they into that over there?
I don't know.
So I had a restaurant job, right? It's a good story. And there was a couple that worked there. They were both line cooks, I believe.
Okay.
And they both contracted, was it salmonella? Is that the E. coli?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Oh.
So they both contracted E. coli. And one of the waitresses I worked with was like, don't they know they're supposed to shower before they do that?
Oh. And after? So what was the thing about the dog?
man.
What was that called with the dog?
Parvo.
All right. So a friend of mine had a beagle, and it used to go outside and eat its own,
Yeah.
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
So he went to the veterinarian. The veterinarian told him to put Tabasco sauce on it.
to teach her.
to teach
I'll
him not
show
to eat
you.
Exactly. He said it worked.
He liked. I don't know. It depends what type of dog you have.
It was a beagle.
This is not.
Sometimes they like the spicy though.
This is
You
not
gotta be
veterinary
careful.
advice. We are not veterinarians.
Don't use Tabasco unless you're a line cook.
Use Tabasco at you and your pet's own risk.
Yeah.
We take no what's the word I'm looking for? Liability.
Yep. Liability.
We are not liable.
Right.
Do not try this at home.
Hold harmless
even
and
with
indemnify us.
even with parental supervision. Don't try this at home. Just
Right.
don't try this. Period.
Your mileage may vary.
So anyway, apparently 2,411 cases have been discovered across the UK.
Wow.
Weekly notifications. Yeah, we already covered that. Officials suspect even these numbers are an underestimation of the true numbers of Brits infected, with many suffering symptoms without seeking treatment. Reporting the outbreak in the journal Eurosurveillance.
Oh, whoa.
They have a
There's
journal.
a lot of
called
surveillance
Euro.
over there.
Health security.
They took away their
surveillance.
guns, so
Yeah.
what else are they going to do? They're bored, right? They can't, be chasing after people when they don't have any guns, so they got to form all these bureaucratic agencies to do all sorts of bureaucratic things that, otherwise oppress and tax and, make fools out of themselves.
They're probably looking for more funding, right? Oh, we've seen an increase. We need more funding to find more of this stuff.
The UK HSA experts wrote, given the scale and geographical spread of the exceedance across regions and nations of the UK, a single local exposure is an unlikely cause. So, no, it wasn't because Brad's a stinky butt who never washes and he went
Yep.
swimming at the pool.
Takes a bath in the pool.
I mean, I'm sure these things always existed, but it sounds like recently they became resistant to chlorine, which is what most people are using to sanitize their pools
right.
and their hot tubs and, other public swimming holes, right?
Or something got into whatever it is they're using to sanitize their pool. So they're all using the same crap.
Maybe.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
At any rate, a survey of... Wait, no, hang on. Blah, 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 okay. A survey of almost 500 patients handed out by health officials to help pin down the cause of the outbreak showed 54% of those infected had been overseas 14 days before suffering their first symptoms. It's not our fault. It's their fault.
Yeah.
Right.
It's them. You were over there with them. It's their fault. You brought it back here. Now it's ours.
Travel ban.
So don't go to Britain, apparently.
I wouldn't.
If you don't want this.
Well, no, don't go to Britain, then to a Mediterranean.
Well, don't go to the Mediterranean and then to Britain.
Right.
You can go to Britain now because they already have it. You don't have to import it. So
Right.
Yeah, you don't. You can actually save half your travel expenses by just going directly to
They
Britain.
can enjoy the same effects in Britain without having to travel.
That's right. Half price. Of the 215 cases for which more detailed travel information was available, nearly half reported traveling to either Spain's mainland or islands such as Majorca and Ibiza. I'm probably mispronouncing those as well. 2/3 had gone swimming before being plagued by symptoms. All right, well, stop swimming. Our initial findings would suggest swimming, either in the UK or abroad, including the use of pools and foreign travel to a variety of destinations, may underlie the current increase, they wrote. Or is it in the water?
It's not what's in the water. It is the water.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Like,
Yeah.
if it's such a widespread thing where you're like, yeah, it's not a single point.
Yeah.
There's not, we can't trace it to like, oh, it came from, these two pools in this little community over here, right? If it's too widespread
all
for that,
over?
you got to look at your water supply.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? I don't see them saying anything about, we looked at the water supply and it was fine.
But I mean, like, that's crazy to be like in the Mediterranean too. I mean, that could just be a cover up. They're like, oh, well, these people traveled. I'm sure a lot of people travel on holiday. Maybe that's
right.
Did they swim in a pool when they were on holiday, or did they swim in a pool when they got back? It's kind of need more details.
Should ban those
but
swimming pools.
Probably.
Dangerous swimming pools. Ban it.
Wow.
Wow. Ban water. It's bad.
Just stop drinking water.
Stop drinking water.
Beer has food value, but food has no beer value.
And beer is typically much cleaner than water. So there you go.
Right.
There you have it.
There's a reason why beer, people figured out how to transport that stuff, and like people would drink it before they would drink water.
Yeah, because it was
especially
cleaner.
yeah, when
no,
it's-
literally, it was cleaner.
It was.
This is not medical advice, but
But it is drunken advice. At this stage, other sources, for example, contaminated food, cannot be excluded as contributing to the exceedance, they wrote. The experts added that they were working on a public health information campaign urging the public to not use swimming pools while suffering cryptosporidium symptoms because for 14 days after signs of illness have cleared, this is a poorly written article, as they can still infect articles. For being British, they should do a poor job of English.
Right. Crikey.
Want to crumble this up and throw it in the trunk. I'm sorry, the boot.
The bin. No, the bin.
The bin, yeah.
The bin.
The bin. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, the
bin.
car boot.
Car boot.
That's the trunk.
The trunk, yeah. The boot.
Anyway, they also added that they're working with their EU equivalents. That means more bureaucrats.
Thank God. Oh my
Bureaucrats
gosh.
working. Can you imagine? You're a bureaucrat, and then you have to work with more bureaucrats.
Yeah, well, that's what they do, right?
Right. And then,
how
like-
are they going to get to the bottom of this diarrhea
Well, first they're
without
gonna
like
have to-
17 different government bureaucratic agencies?
Well,
I mean, how would they
first-
ever figure it out?
First, they're going to have to create an intra-country, an intra-state.
Yeah, we need
MECA organization, a bureaucracy.
somebody call the
of its
European
own.
Union.
And then they're going to have forms that they have to fill out.
Yeah.
And a
in
blue
order
ribbon
to
commission.
become
Yeah.
this one MECA bureaucratic organization that's going to
Exactly.
work with all the other bureaucrats to figure out why the bureaucrats can't find anything or do anything
then-
or fix anything.
And then by the time they figure it out, everybody who got the disease is already dead.
Who let the poo out?
Who flung poo? Anyway, for most people, cryptosporidiosis, the technical name for the infection, is mild. It typically clears up on its own without any treatment within a few days or weeks. However, for vulnerable people, like those with weakened immune systems and the elderly or patients undergoing cancer treatment,
Or
it
people
can
that
be,
are vaccinated against COVID.
People who are vaccinated.
it can be more serious. Wait, I've got it. You can go swimming wherever you want, whenever you want. Just put a mask over your butt.
Aren't you supposed to be doing that already? So no skinny
Wow.
dipping. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying like
Wait,
one of
bottoms
those,
only.
Put a mask
No,
on
no.
your butt?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to like that's what they did
So
for.
Right.
Well,
Put it
that
over
was
your
the
face.
face diaper.
Yeah.
So now isn't that
You
just
need
a
a-
regular
It's
diaper?
just a diaper.
Just
Yeah.
a diaper.
Everybody just start wearing diapers while you're swimming, because then they get all filled with water and heavy and droop down.
Cute.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll drive the women
Safety
wild.
first, folks. Safety first.
Due to its highly infectious nature, people with symptoms such as diarrhea and vomiting are told to stay off work or school until they have been free from these symptoms for at least 48 hours.
I think I know what might be behind this. It's probably a large chlorine manufacturer in the EU who's trying to get this thing ramped up so that they have to increase the amount of chlorine in the pools in Britain
and sell
to
more
get a
chlorine,
contract.
Right, yeah.
So paying off the poly, you got to do something about this poo.
It's some somewhat savvy salesperson who's like, you know how dogs like drag their butt across the carpet? He's doing that in these like batches of chlorine at the chlorine factory.
Right.
Right. So that it creates this thing where people are like, oh, we better up the chlorine content
Right.
to like sanitize our pools more.
I'm just your guy.
And he's like, oh, sure, we can give you more chlorine.
Right.
No
He makes a nice
problem."
campaign donation to whoever the health minister is. And
Yeah.
chlorine sales up. And then the problem's gone.
And
now you just got to keep elevated
and
levels of
meanwhile,
chlorine.
he's made more commission and
Exactly.
buys himself a new, not a Lamborghini, a
Ferrari.
Ferrari.
Yes.
Yes. He buys himself a new Ferrari. And why do we mention the Ferrari?
Because you can buy one with crypto.
You can.
Yes.
I know.
Not cryptosporidium.
Hell of a segue.
You can't.
We managed to segue the number 2 story using cryptosporidium, and Bitcoin, and Lamborghinis, and Ferraris. So
Wow, what a transition.
I mean, mic drop. Like if we didn't have,
And we didn't, and it was
we're
like,
only halfway through the show, so we can't. Right, otherwise-
All right,
that
pick
would
it back up.
You should have waited for the music break at the bottom of the hour to do that. Then you would have just like hit it.
But then we wouldn't have had the great unplanned and unscripted segue that just occurred, right?
You are correct.
These things happen spontaneously, or at least when they do happen spontaneously, and they're not forced. They're the best segues ever.
Well, that's why you're the captain. You planned it.
I didn't.
I'm not.
I just merely facilitated.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. I left the mukes unmuted. I left the mics unmuted. What the heck is wrong
Spiraling
with
towards perfection here. He's got cryptosporidium in that coffee.
Something.
Hopefully not.
Maybe there's not enough of something in here. I should put some whiskey in here later.
I mean, if it was made with water from Keene, there's plenty of chlorine in it.
Yeah, no kidding.
I can't believe that they didn't even mention like looking at like city water. Yeah, but whatever. 603-283-6160 is the phone number if you'd like to join us. Coming up, yes, we are going to talk about Ferrari and crypto. Plus, why is the U.S. halting civilian firearms shipments? More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join today.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. US President Joe Biden held phone calls on Sunday with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. He expressed support for Israel to defend itself, but also concern over it abiding by international law and protecting civilians as the ground invasion continues. But Biden also calling on Israel to abide by international law and also protect the lives of civilians, and also to Egypt's President el-Sisi, talking about the support to make sure that Palestinians aren't displaced in huge numbers out of Gaza. Egypt and other regional countries do have a concern there could be huge numbers of refugees coming out of Gaza if this conflict carries on for much longer. Well, Israel continues to expand its ground and air attacks on Gaza as it moves forward in its invasion to try and wipe out Hamas. The UN is calling the humanitarian situation catastrophic. People in Israel are also continuing to push for the release of hostages being held in Gaza. Here's Sarah Coates from Tel Aviv.
Now, as these negotiations over a prisoner swap reportedly continue, so too do demonstrations right around the country as people demand more from the Israeli government, saying it should be its first priority bringing back these 229 people who are reportedly being held underground in the Gaza Strip. Demonstrators waving flags and placards saying war has no winners, bring them home now, and hostage swap now. Meanwhile, rockets continue to rain down on parts of Israel, including the center and the south, reportedly causing a lot of damage to a number of residential buildings, while in the north, cross-border skirmishes continue with Hezbollah militants. Israel says it has fired a surface-to-air missile, responding with fire over the Lebanese border, really ratcheting up tensions in the region amid fears an all-out regional war could spill over.
Matthew Perry, one of the stars of the epic sitcom Friends, has been found dead at the age of 54. The police say no foul play is suspected. Perry gained international fame playing Chandler Bing on the US show for 10 years, but had a public struggle with addiction.
I'm not great at the advice. Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?
As Chandler Bing, Matthew Perry brought joy to many millions of people around the world, playing the geeky, awkward, sarcastic character on the show Friends. It first aired from 1994 to 2004, but is still being replayed and rewatched avidly by fans looking for a laugh. But in his private life, Perry struggled with drinking and drug use over many decades. He spent more than half his life in treatment and rehab. Perry was found unresponsive in a hot tub in Los Angeles. He was 54 years old. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Meow, meow. Oh, wait. Yes, we are back. I was still in. Wow. I'm going to have to start bringing in, like...
Yeah, mute my mic until...
I'm going to have to start bringing in, like, an electric can opener.
An electric, yes.
And some
I
cans
love that.
of tuna. Just
Yeah.
like
They come
right before
running.
the show start, I'll just open a can. You both come running in.
Yeah.
Like, oh!
Is that cat still hanging around here?
No.
No?
Turns out he's from like
Down the street.
down the street
Oh, they
and
found
across
him.
the busy road. But like they came by and got him, and then apparently he made his way back
came
one
back,
time,
yeah.
and because the contact was there, they called him again and came and got him. So
Yeah.
Cat's name we called him Drac.
Drac, yeah, 'cause he was biting
He,
people.
he bites, but not
It's like a love bite, like an attention.
like he will break the skin, but he's not biting you like out of defense.
It's
or
like a
anything,
little
right?
bit of like a
Yeah.
crazy girlfriend bite. You know what I mean?
Crypto spray.
You're like I like that, but ow.
Just like that, except
You're like a little
without the
too
fun.
much teeth.
It's just
Yeah.
exactly like that, but without the fun.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Oh, radio show. Right.
Who are you?
I'm the captain. Who are you?
Steve Classic.
Who's she?
And I'm Nikki.
What's the name of the show?
Free Talk Live.
What's the phone number?
It's 603-283-6160.
I tried to do the bouncing ball with my finger,
I know,
but I didn't want to distract you either. So, and this is probably in your way.
And it's a nationally
the line of
syndicated
sight.
radio show that caller driven, right? And you should call in. And if you're an amplifier,
I should probably
the captain will mention your name.
I should probably say thank you to
Silver amplifier.
Somebody called Six Pack.
Whoa,
Hey.
Florida
Spelled
man.
out, not
Florida
with the number,
man.
not with the number though. SIXPACK is a silver level amplifier.
Wow.
What does that mean? Well, that means Six Pack decided to go visit amps.freetalklive.com and give us $5 a month because Six Pack believes that that's the best use of his Liberty dollar as far as contributions are concerned.
I agree.
He enjoys the perspective of peace, freedom, and prosperity that we bring. He enjoys the hosts, the co-hosts, the callers, the content of the show, and he wants to help advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. Where does the money go? Well, most of it goes to getting us on more radio stations. We're on like 180 or so radio stations now. We could be on 200, 300, 350, not out of the question. It's all up to you. If you want to find out more, visit amps.freetalklive.com, and you'll see it's a Patreon kind of a setup. We only ask for $5 a month. You can give more, and if you do, there's different benefits you get for giving. But that's not why you should contribute. You should contribute because you want to get the show on more radio stations. So thank you, Six Pack, for being an amplifier. If you want to become an amplifier for Free Talk Live, you can visit amps.freetalklive.com.
And the captain will mention your name on the air.
Well, one of our hosts will. It
Well,
could
if you're
be me.
if you're lucky,
Could be me.
could be Sunday night.
Could be Bonnie. Could be any other first chair host that we either have had or will have again. Look, we've got a phone call. Let's go to this unscreened caller. You're live on the radio. What's your name, please?
My name's Leaker from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Hey, Leaker. Welcome. What's on your mind?
I've got the answer to your poo problem.
Oh,
from a guy named Leaker.
Leaker. Yeah, this is
okay.
This is ominous at best, but go ahead.
Most swimming pools in Europe and in the Mediterranean are saltwater. There is no chlorine in the water.
So it is the chlorine salesman.
No, I am not this chlorine salesman.
No, not you.
Or
but
is
I
he?
think they're trying to sneak chlorine into the pools. That's what they'll come up with some finding saying we need to add chlorine.
Yeah, I spent several years in Europe, and all the pools that I've ever went to were all saltwater.
I'm a fan of saltwater pools. I'm like very crunchy, I guess you could say. So I really don't like most chemicals. So they're like hippie, whatever, natural minded.
Crunchy? Oh,
yeah,
granola.
Captain was giving me confused faces, like what?
Crunchy? Like you're a battered woman and you're deep fried? You know?
No,
Like,
hey, yeah,
you know.
that actually sounds delicious. But that too. But anyways, I'm not a huge fan of chlorine. But when we're talking about public swimming pools where you have like hundreds of people visiting it, yeah, you might want to throw some extra chlorine in there because I don't think typically salts won't do it. But based on the article, it seemed like they were using chlorine, and I think it mentioned that it was chlorine resistant.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
So I don't know, but but maybe that's how they contracted it, and then they brought it into the other pools, and even if there was chlorine, maybe it was.
Or maybe they were swimming in the ocean outside of a sewage treatment plant.
Ooh, right.
That's disgusting.
I was going to ask, Leaker, do you know, can you just, chuck a bunch of salt into chlorinated water?
You can.
I mean, would it help, right? Like, obviously, sure, I could grab a salt shaker, chuck it in a pool, see what happens.
I mean, you're talking. They have the Mediterranean sea salt and whatever. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But most of the pools that I've ever went to, it was all salt water.
Huh.
I couldn't even smell chlorine.
So did every pool that you went to then have a freshwater shower?
Yes.
Okay. I asked that because I spent some time in, Florida.
Florida man.
I was once a Florida man. It's true. I lived there for a minute. And anyway, at the saltwater beaches, we'll call it the city, they would every so often, I don't know, every mile or two or something like that, they would put up a freshwater shower so that if you went swimming in the saltwater, you could rinse off with the fresh water.
Yeah.
It was cold only, so there was no hot, it was just one temperature, and, you really couldn't, I guess you could get naked, but, there was no, stall or...
Yeah, just wash the sand off your butt.
Yeah, you're just trying to wash, the salt off of you after swimming in the salt water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
But the city water probably has chlorine in it. Even in Britain, if they're filling those pools...
Well, it depends on what part of the world. In some parts of the world in Asia, it's iodine.
Which is probably better for you. I don't know.
Well, except that you taste it.
Well, I'd probably just stay out of the pool. It's a ban on swimming pools.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of. I guess I like lakes and salt, like in the ocean and stuff like that. But I'm not a fan of swimming, like public swimming pools and
hot tub at a hotel.
With a bunch of
no,
yeah, like a bunch of kids and people peeing in there.
I wasn't either, except for in most European swimming pools, the women are topless, so which is a bonus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to go into the pool for that. I mean, you can stay on the sidelines, right?
Yeah.
Probably get hot though. You want to go in.
Yeah.
Anything else today, Leaker?
No, that's it.
Hey, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate you. 603-283-6160. I almost thought he said, blow me up. There's a, I don't know if he's still doing shows. There's an old radio guy's name is Tom Likas. He invented something called Flash Friday.
Flash Friday, yeah. You were saying that.
So he used to be on Drive Time on the West Coast. I think all up and down the West Coast. I think
the Tom Likas show.
Yeah, I think at some point he was on Drive Time in all the major cities on the West Coast: Portland, Seattle, L.A., right, San Diego, all that kind of stuff.
Afternoon guy.
Yeah, and so he was like, "Okay, it's Friday afternoon, everybody. Drive around with your headlights on if you want to be flashed." And this will let all of our female listeners know that if they see a car with their headlights on, to go ahead and flash them. And it worked.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
I got flashed a couple of times.
I'm surprised that the chicks were actually into that.
I mean, I'm not, but then again, I've been to biker parties and stuff like that where it's all about that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
They have a contest at one of the things I remember at one of the biker parties. They have a contest called the Weenie Bite, and so they basically tie a hot dog to a string and hang it, from a thing, and then a biker is on his Harley or whatever, and his old lady's on the back. And she has to sort of stand up while riding.
Oh, I've seen this. Yes,
and
I've seen
take
this.
a bite out of the hot dog.
Oh.
and they ride really slow,
Yeah,
right? So they
yeah.
can kind of, and whoever takes the largest bite of the hot dog wins.
Yep.
Right. And then they have like the wet t-shirt contest.
Yeah,
and
all
that
the good
kind of
stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Wholesome,
yeah,
wholesome family activities.
family
yeah.
fun activities. Yeah. Nothing lewd, rude, or sexual.
Right.
Yep.
The
Just
weenie
a
bite?
wiener eating contest. Nothing to see here.
How did we get on this topic?
I don't know.
The chlorine in the pool.
Chlorine in
I
the
don't
pool.
I don't know. Boobs. I don't know.
Tom Likas.
Oh, Tom Likas, right?
Right.
He invented. He said, right, the caller leaker. I thought he said at the end when I was hanging out, he's like, "Blow me up," and that used to be the thing that people would ask Tom Likas for. Tom Likas had this sound effect of like a nuclear bomb or whatever, and so people would call in and ask to be blown up on their way out, whatever he hung up
This
on.
is a bucket list item.
Yeah, so he was like, okay, right, big old explosion sound. Anyway, there was really no point in telling that story, other than it's fun to tell. Flash Friday, that's right, it was real. I was there. I lived it. At any rate, let's go back to your calls and thoughts. We have Dana calling from Michigan. Dana, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, Captain. So I
Yo.
called for clarification. Normally, I always call for commentary. But after I hung up, I wish you guys would, not just with me, but with other callers, if you don't understand something, ask the caller when they're online, because often things are being misinterpreted. And I know I didn't explain everything because Nikki made a remark. And Nikki and I are almost always on the same page. And I was really taken aback by the remark until I thought about it and realized.
Are you
I didn't
talking
really
about your call from like last week or something, Dana?
Yeah, last week Sunday. Yeah, after I hung up.
I
Why?
don't remember.
What do you mean? Why? Well, I called. I'll remind you, and I was saying that we all need to be on the same side. I am not a Republican, but we don't have much of a choice. It's either a D or an R. Excuse me.
Well, the
You
only
guys
winning
can
move is
argue-
not to play, so that's my move.
Well, that's what you choose to do, but I just can't, because I don't know why I can't. I guess I haven't given up yet. But Nikki made the remark about, I don't really know why she called now, because Ian's in prison. And she did not know. And then why I called over 10 years ago and warned Ian and Mark that they're going to come after you guys. So that's what the call was about. That I warned.
And I understood that part. It just seemed like I didn't understand why you would call now to be like, it felt like kind of like, see, I told you so. Like I told you guys this was not gloating. And I don't, and I want to clarify, like, it didn't seem like it was like a malicious intent on your part. I don't think I want to like assume that you're like happy that Ian's in jail or anything like that. I really don't think that's the case, but it did kind of seem like you just wanted to call in to say like, oh, I'm right. So I guess I just didn't really understand that point.
No, and I think Captain understands, because we've talked for much longer than I've called in on Sundays when you're on the show, Nikki. Oh, God, no, I'm not. I'm outright. I'd rather be calling you guys saying we're all wrong. We were wrong. The other side is great. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
We really don't want to take our freedom and our guns and everything else. No, what I was saying was that over 10 years ago, when it was mostly Ian and Mark, you guys weren't even a part of the show. And I told those guys, and what I told you guys, I said, be very careful, because libertarians really are very appealing. The freedom thing, the liberty thing is huge. That's a basic tenet to conservatism. Now, I vote Republican only because I vote for the most conservative. There isn't a conservative party. There is a libertarian party, but I don't agree with everything you guys agree with, but the basics, and that's what we need to focus on. And so that's what I was telling those guys. I said, you be careful, because I don't trust this government. And this was all about Obama. I said, they're going to come for you guys because they've already come for the conservatives. They completely denounced the Republicans and made them look like the asses that they usually are. Can I say ass on radio?
You just did.
Yes, you can.
Good.
Say it again.
Twice. Okay, good. So they deserve that, because they're idiots. They don't stand for anything they're supposed to. So when the Tea Party started, this wasn't an anti-black, and Obama was never black. He is not the first black president. I digress. He's the first biracial president. I have friends who are biracial, and they were so angry that he was running around calling himself black. Well, you can identify with whatever you want to, and or what your wife tells you, because we all know Michelle wears the pants.
Big Mike.
So Big Mike. So he's going to do whatever he says, what he tells him. So anyway, that being said, Obama went after conservatives because they were mad about the fiscal stuff, the stealing from us and spending it on crap. And so they formed the Tea Party, which was so apropos because that's why the original Tea Party, if Obama would have studied history instead of revolution and how to overthrow the government that he's, part of through Marxism, then he would have known the initial Tea Party was all because of the tax from King George III. So I thought that was so appropriate. It wasn't an anti-black thing, anti-Democrat, anti-Obama. So anyway, he went after the conservatives. So now I told those guys, I warned them, I said, you mark my words, you guys are going to be next. You're the last ones they're going to take out because this Democrat Party is not the Democrats of John F. Kennedy. He would never get elected. And today, Obama wouldn't even get elected. So now come forward, Nikki and Captain, and then I got into a little bit of a verbal with Peakless, and then he never apologized the following Saturday, but he did clarify. He was like, Ian, it was one of his last shows before he went to jail, and I talked to him two Saturdays in a row, and the last Saturday was great because we did Q&A. He asked me all these different questions. Where do I stand on people doing drugs and this and that? And we had this big back and forth. It took a whole segment he gave me. So he said, wow, I'm different than you thought I was. You can't pigeonhole me. The reason why I called is because I was mad that you were a part of the show too, Captain. Ian and Peakless, and not you, Captain, were taking swipes at conservative Christians 5 daggone weeks in a row. And I was mad. Christians turn the other cheek.
To be fair.
Not always, though.
Yeah, and to be fair, we take swipes at, everybody.
Yeah.
No,
we do.
5 weeks in a row.
Sometimes more frequently than others.
So,
it depends on who's irking us at that time.
I was trying to tell Peakless and Ian, you guys need to stop because you're next on the list. And this was
but
Ian
Dana,
was
you're not like a producer of the show or anything like that. So
I never said I was.
But you're telling us how to do the show and what we should and shouldn't do.
No, I'm not telling you how. I'm calling in and that's unfair, Captain. And you've never been unfair with me. I am not claiming to be something I'm not.
Like sands through the hourglass.
Sands through the hourglass.
So are the days of our lives.
Dana, thank you for the call. We appreciate you.
I mean, and I think I said it last time she called too, her original discrepancy with me. I do appreciate the sentiment of what she's saying, we should kind of band together, common enemy against the state, whatever. But I also don't think it's fair to say that we can't criticize a lot of conservative Christians because sometimes those types of people do things that go against freedom.
Yeah.
And I try really hard. I've been very critical of all forms of organized religion on the show, and I have a lot of friends that are very conservative Christian. Please,
Yep.
I really, and we get along swimmingly, and we agree on most things. You know what I mean? The things we don't agree on, we usually just don't bring up, right?
But they love the police, don't they?
Yeah, not always. But yeah, most conservatives do.
They love the military.
But yeah, so I try not to group entire, groups of people together. Just because you're a Christian, you believe this, that, and the other thing. Just because you're a conservative, you believe this, that, and the other thing. And she kind of touched upon that, I guess when Ian was kind of interviewing her on that show, he was surprised, okay, we have a little bit more common ground than we thought. Just when you say you're a conservative Christian, I'm going to put you in this box because of that label. In me personally, that's why I don't really like calling myself a libertarian or most of these labels.
Yeah, I generally don't refer to myself as libertarian. I'll
Because
say
it puts you in a
libertarian
box,
type,
right?
Right? Libertarian kind.
It depends who I'm talking to and how I'm going to describe myself. Okay, usually I'll say something like, I'm an anarchist.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in the legitimacy of the state. You know, I'll play the game to survive and exist.
Yep.
But I don't actually believe in its legitimacy. I believe in peace and freedom. Yeah. Peaceful anarchist. That, I think, kind of really sums it up.
I think Dana means well. But
I think so too, yeah.
But we're obviously living in her head rent free. Right. And
she's still talking about last Sunday.
Yeah. And I play the Days of Our Lives thing because that's me going, oh, this sounds like drama. Right.
Yeah.
This is Free Talk Live.
Hey, it's free
is
talk.
a radio program, and it kind of by no intention of its own also becomes a bit of a reality TV show.
Yeah.
Because we have the video
Yeah, we have our
feeds,
people,
right?
yeah.
Anybody who listens regularly knows way more about us than we know about them.
Yeah.
What we do with our lives on a daily basis, and and like I get it. And like she's taking our concept seriously, which I get, and I don't want to dissuade anybody from taking the concepts of freedom seriously. You should take them seriously. We have to do this on a regular basis, so we try to have a little bit of a light touch to it, particularly on Sundays.
Yeah.
Throw a little extra humor at it and that kind of a thing. But I certainly don't want to get into like something like I can't. How do I even respond to a conversation she had with Mark and Ian, 10 years ago or whatever it is?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I believe you, but like, that's it, right? Like, so.
Yeah.
I told you back in 2020 that in 10 years it was going to be 2030.
Well, like
I told you that.
I don't think she was trying to scold anybody. And, I think she clarified that here tonight, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, her point is that we should band together. I think that's really the sentiment of what she's saying. Like, we're stronger together. Like, we have more alike than we do different.
Yes, right.
And that's very true. But I also don't think that means that we can't be critical of each other.
Right.
I mean, libertarians, right? Again, like with the labels, but libertarians are famous for like no one disagrees with a libertarian more than a libertarian, right?
Oh,
like
right.
they love to debate. Like that's just, but it can be done in good humor and in good fun.
Sometimes it's not though.
Sometimes, sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's drama and like sometimes it's not positive.
If you had a presidential election with a Democrat, Republican, and a Libertarian, you'd probably have to have 10 or 15 different Libertarian candidates that would fit the bill for every Libertarian. I don't think you'd be able to primary
no one's
down.
a real Libertarian.
You wouldn't be
right?
able to primary down to one person. I don't think.
Although it would be nice if the Libertarian Party actually, tried to field a Libertarian
But then again, a lot of
candidate.
Libertarians just don't believe in elections. So
there's that.
Okay.
And I
So,
think
like,
this actually might be to Dana's point. Like, if y'all stopped fighting and
All
just
y'all.
like, if all y'all stopped fighting and, worked together, and that actually, I think is very true of the libertarian movement in general.
Yeah.
It's like herding cats, right? It's like we have all these people who are like super into the individual and they think that they're right and all of these things. And it's not always beneficial to the greater movement. It's like, how are we going to get someone elected into, to be the president if we can't even, decide on what to make for dinner?
I'm
you know
no
what I mean?
Libertarian Party subscriber. I've never given them money, et cetera, and so on. But it's my understanding that the Libertarian National Party has never fielded an actual Libertarian candidate for president.
No, everyone I know that has ran for president that is like actually freedom-minded always ran like DRR.
Well, that's how it
they're
happens
running
in New
under
Hampshire.
the two parties.
Right, but I mean,
and even our state reps,
they'll jump to
even
a party.
for president, right? They had, Gary Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Not
the other chick.
Libertarian. What was her name?
I forget.
Who just ran a couple years
with the
ago.
bangs.
Yeah, with the bangs.
Not Boebert.
I can see her. I can see her in my head. What's her name?
Let me ask the magic.
Ask the magic rectangle.
But either way,
we should. Joe Jorgensen.
Jorgensen. Joe Jorgensen.
Yeah, not a Libertarian.
Well, and this is okay. So this is now you're kind of being guilty to the not libertarian enough thing, right? It's like, what is a libertarian? And this is why I think I get burnt out by labels, because it's like,
For me, subscribe to the non-aggression principle, and talk about it incessantly.
Zap.
Okay.
Like,
Zero
to me,
aggression.
that's the only effect you're going to have as a presidential candidate running as a libertarian.
But it
You're-
sounds like she might have a different definition of what a libertarian is than you do.
Weird.
That's why the primaries will go on forever.
603-283-6160. Will a real libertarian please stand up? We may or may not find out.
No.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. BitRefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a ton of big-name retailers and brands including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Plus, many of their gift cards are available at a discount. But what about paying your bills? Spritz.finance can do that, and they can send dollars to your bank account in case you still need those for some reason. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. US President Joe Biden held phone calls on Sunday with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. He expressed support for Israel to defend itself, but also concern over it abiding by international law and protecting civilians as the ground invasion continues. But Biden also calling on Israel to abide by international law and also protect the lives of civilians, and also to Egypt's President el-Sisi, talking about the support to make sure that Palestinians aren't displaced in huge numbers out of Gaza. Egypt and other regional countries do have a concern there could be huge numbers of refugees coming out of Gaza if this conflict carries on for much longer. Well, Israel continues to expand its ground and air attacks on Gaza as it moves forward in its invasion to try and wipe out Hamas. The UN is calling the humanitarian situation catastrophic. People in Israel are also continuing to push for the release of hostages being held in Gaza. Here's Sarah Coates from Tel Aviv.
Now, as these negotiations over a prisoner swap reportedly continue, so too do demonstrations right around the country as people demand more from the Israeli government, saying it should be its first priority bringing back these 229 people who are reportedly being held underground in the Gaza Strip. Demonstrators waving flags and placards saying war has no winners, bring them home now, and hostage swap now. Meanwhile, rockets continue to rain down on parts of Israel, including the center and the south, reportedly causing a lot of damage to a number of residential buildings, while in the north, cross-border skirmishes continue with Hezbollah militants. Israel says it has fired a surface-to-air missile, responding with fire over the Lebanese border, really ratcheting up tensions in the region amid fears an all-out regional war could spill over.
Matthew Perry, one of the stars of the epic sitcom Friends, has been found dead at the age of 54. The police say no foul play is suspected. Perry gained international fame playing Chandler Bing on the US show for 10 years, but had a public struggle with addiction.
I'm not great at the advice. Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?
As Chandler Bing, Matthew Perry brought joy to many millions of people around the world, playing the geeky, awkward, sarcastic character on the show Friends. It first aired from 1994 to 2004, but is still being replayed and rewatched avidly by fans looking for a laugh. But in his private life, Perry struggled with drinking and drug use over many decades. He spent more than half his life in treatment and rehab. Perry was found unresponsive in a hot tub in Los Angeles. He was 54 years old. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking in more detail today at the Artificial Intelligence Safety Summit that is being hosted this week by UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He's invited leaders from more than 100 countries to attend the event. It's being held at Bletchley Park, the campus where code breakers managed to crack the Nazis' communication system and advanced the prospects for Allied victory in World War II. Mr Sunak says he wants to position the UK as a world leader in the campaign for AI safety.
When the guys and gals who are working on this start talking about extinction level potential here, I think we certainly have to pay attention to it.
Carla Ann Robbins is with America's Council on Foreign Relations.
You have to welcome serious efforts by politicians who are trying to figure out limits or guardrails. And Sunak has declared his goal is for the UK to become what he calls, quote, the geographical home of global AI safety regulation. The guest list hasn't been formally announced, but it's going to include tech executives, some civil society leaders. We hear that Vice President Kamala Harris is going. And there's a Chinese delegation going, which I gather is only going to come for part of the meeting, and that U.S. officials were not happy about that invitation, although it makes an enormous amount of sense because the U.S. and China are the big leaders in this space.
And UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres will also be there, underscoring calls for a global body to be created to convene oversight of AI. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. US President Biden, in a phone call with Israel's Netanyahu, has reiterated the country's right to defend itself, but cautions on international law and the treatment of civilians. Israelis continue to push for the freeing of hostages being held in Gaza by Hamas. And Friends star Matthew Perry dies at the age of 54. He was famous for playing Chandler Bing on the sitcom. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. That's the latest from Feature Story News. Caroline Malone.
Saying that he was giving his co-workers at Marley Publishing just a few more days to catch on to him, local mentally unstable man Michael Redding told reporters he planned on exhibiting 1 or 2 more warning signs this week before, quote, finally doing this.
I think I'll do just a couple of disconcerting things in front of people here at the office. Maybe give them a day or two to take action through the appropriate channels. But if that doesn't happen, then I'm going through with it.
The fully unhinged Redding, who plans on, quote, making this thing happen sometime next week, claims that despite displaying erratic and worrisome behavior around the office for the past few months, his actions have gone completely unreported by his coworkers.
I definitely talked about my frustration with life in general, and I even discussed my fascination with all sorts of violence. But that still didn't throw up any red flags. We'll see if anyone catches on.
Mike? I don't know him super well, but he's nice enough. He's quiet and he keeps to himself mostly, but I'm sure he'll come out of his shell. Just a matter of time.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
We're back,
and we're back, and we're back,
and we're back, and we're back, and we're back, and we're back, Woof.
Woof, woof.
I was thinking about doing a dog noise, but then I was like, I don't know. I'm a better at meowing.
Growl.
I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
That's the claw.
And it's never next
from Inspector. Yeah, he always gets away.
Next time.
Yeah, next time.
It's like Homer Simpson. Like, what's his name? Homer Simpson. I'll remember that name. And every time he says, who is that guy? I'll remember his name.
What are people listening to?
Free Talk Live.
What number can they call?
603-283-6160.
Yeah, bingo.
What's the website if people want to learn more?
freetalklive.com.
Okay.
.com.
Or if you'd like to watch us, video.freetalklive.com.
If you like to watch.
If you'd like to watch, we're here to be watched.
I don't know why you would. But
Call now. Call now.
Operators are standing by. And by operators, I mean me.
Right. Let's go to an unscreened call.
I really like how, we've been screening our own calls here for years now, I guess.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's better that way.
It's been a while. But every now and again, you screen a guy and then you bring him on the air and he's like, yeah, I was talking to your screener a minute ago.
That's me?
And I'm like, yes, I am. Yes,
I'm the screener.
I know
the
him. He is me. Right?
Yeah,
It's the Star
right,
Wars.
yeah, the Star, yeah.
Captain Screener.
Of course I know him. He's me.
I am he.
Obi-Wan.
He is I am
Let's go to the wild card line next.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
We've got Butter.
Butter.
Major Payne calling from Michigan. Major?
Yes, this hour is brought to you by Dash, which has no affiliation with the.
Oh man, actually, hang on. This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a tech standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their chain locks technology. Hang on. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies. It's widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and easy to use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. And a big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. That's Dash.org. And thank you, Major Payne, for reminding me to do the live read for Dash.
Brought to you by Major Payne.
You're welcome.
All right, go ahead.
I got part of the answer for how your girlfriend back in the day probably got parvo.
Well, you see, I have a theory, but I don't think I can say it on the radio.
No, that germ
get the dump button ready.
In the soil for 3 years.
Really?
So the turd can be totally beaten to death by rain and no longer existence, and all you got to be is rolling around in the grass and get a little dirt in you.
Well, that's how.
I mean, we did like to occasionally go for a roll, if you know what I'm saying.
Hey.
Oh.
Anyway, the other ones I got a
tough crowd.
Well,
it's not amused today.
It's almost Halloween. I got a bunch of good ghost stories, but I just learned something I didn't know about the origin of Halloween the other day, and it's pretty interesting. It goes all the way back to the Celts.
Wow.
They used to have they were pagans at the time. I think this was 1100, 900, 1300, somewhere in there.
Yep.
I can't remember what date the girl put on it that was reiterating the tale.
Few hundred.
But she said they had this pagan god. I can't remember what his name was. But the November 1st was their solstice. Their big harvest celebration because of the coming of the 6-month night and whatnot.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that they would do is they would take the newest baby in the clan and they would smash his head against the altar, the stone altar.
Whoa. Sounds humane.
Of this god. Wow. And then the couple who was lucky enough to have donated the child would hollow out a turnip and carve some glow holes in it. I don't know if they were doing the face thing at the time, but they made a lantern out of a turnip. Okay. And that's where at least that part of the custom comes from. But I guess this spread all the way up into Lower England through the Druids and probably up into Wales, too.
So what did they carve? Beets or something? What?
Turnips.
They carved a turnip.
Turnips. How did that turn into carving?
Very hard
pumpkins?
in the middle. I mean, you'd have to be carving that thing out with a sharp spoon, just digging out a little chunk at a time.
Yeah, and I'm assuming they did not draw any blood from the turnip.
No, they had it from the baby, probably.
Isn't that a saying? Can't draw blood from a turnip or something?
From a stone?
A stone.
Oh, no, I thought there was a turnip in there.
Turnip?
Yeah, I know. I think it's
there's
a stone.
Blood turnip thing Something somehow.
Don't know.
Okay. Well.
Well, you can't get blood out of a turnip. Yeah, that's an old saying. That might be where it came from.
And Bob's your uncle.
The baby,
Yeah, Sally's your aunt.
Baby certainly had blood, and the turnip
Sally.
was all you had to show for it. And that was supposed to give you pride and standing amongst the community because you had made the sacrifice so everybody could have a good harvest.
I don't understand the smashing of the baby's head part. Like, what was that supposed to do?
That's just that they're sacrificing to whatever the pagan god was.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
to
like
bless them with a good harvest.
It's like
next
chucking somebody into the volcano or something.
Yeah.
year. Like the Incas and the Aztecs used to do the same thing with their populace as children.
Yeah, you know what they say. You gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet. It's for better for everybody.
Well, it's not the greatest system in the world, chucking a baby into a volcano, but it's the system we have.
I know, literally.
No use changing it. There's no use
Well, and when
going
you think
against
about
it.
it, so say if there's a bad harvest that year, they're like, well, so if we sacrifice this baby and it works, then we get a better harvest. And if it doesn't work, we still have one less mouth to feed.
Right. Or
So,
you could say,
win-win.
well, it was a bad harvest. We're taking the whole family. We're going to throw them in the volcano.
Nikki,
it's been a
Well, it's
long-standing
probably
tradition.
Probably only about 1 out of every 10, 20 years you're going to get a bad harvest because of some kind of blight or drought or whatever.
Or poor
So,
farming technique. I mean, like human
come on,
beings,
rotate your
right?
crops, guys. Come on.
I'm just saying if they were going by the odds, it would impress them. And they would say, this must be the way to go.
Don't sacrifice any more babies from that family. It's a bad harvest.
I don't know.
More abundant
Kick
family,
them out.
please.
Throw them in the volcano.
And how would they
Makes me
decide? How would they decide what baby to chuck in the volcano?
You know what they always do? So they have the wise man or the wise person of the village.
Wise guy.
And they're the wise guy. They got the wise guy. And the wise guy's like, I don't really like that guy. So he's like, God or the pagan god told me that Freddy's kid is going to be sacrificed into the volcano. It comes from the gods, a message from the gods. Really, he just doesn't like that guy. But he's the wise guy, so everybody listens to him.
In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so medical, isn't what it is today, or wasn't what it is today.
Yeah.
When it comes to, tribal stuff, chucking kids into volcanoes for harvest, right? Whoever thought up that logic is, illogical. But at any rate, in my mind, okay, so you're this tribe. This is the thing you do. This is your tradition.
Yeah.
Right? Every year you're gonna.
It's tradition. A long-standing tradition.
You're gonna
It's
chuck.
tradition.
You're gonna chuck a perfectly good human being.
Perfectly good. Yeah.
I mean, maybe you won't. In my mind, I'm
Maybe
like,
it wasn't a good human.
yeah. In my mind, I'm like, oh, you're gonna probably the one that was born
weak
with the birth defect and can't
Yeah.
walk right, or can't eat right, or can't hunt, or has some weakness that sort of drags the rest of the tribe down.
And I think that's the logic of it, kind of like I explained before. I was kind of joking, but it probably was serious. Either this works and we get a good harvest, or at best, we don't have to take care of this disabled
less
kid
mouth
or
to
whatever.
feed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
kind of like the.
I don't think they would use the crippled kids because if you insult the gods with the
that's right.
substandard sacrifice, you're going to tick them off.
Yeah, that's actually right. And they took that stuff seriously. If they were sacrificing, say a cow or a goat, they would pick the finest. It had to be the very best.
Yeah, without blemish.
Yeah, without blemish. Yeah, exactly. Or else it would offend the gods, and then
So why
you
did the
starve.
civilization collapse?
Weird.
Weird, huh?
We're sacrificing all of our best food and people.
But again, Steve, it's
our
the only
strongest
system
warrior.
we have.
Dead.
There's no use changing the system or trying to change
It's
it.
tradition.
It's the system we have. It's the best we can do.
Yeah.
Don't try to rock the boat.
Yeah, right.
Stay with the tradition.
Well, there's a reason they called them the Dark Ages, But I got a pretty good ghost story, and this just isn't actually a story. This actually happened to me.
Oh, okay.
Many years ago.
Get that good cough in. Because hacking up a loogie good
many
radio.
years ago, my wife and I had just gotten married. We didn't have any kids yet, but she did have a stepson. Well, we just moved up north, and we were looking for a place to rent, and we didn't have a whole lot of wherewithal to go about doing it. So I found this old ramshackled farmhouse that didn't look like it had been lived in 10 years. And sure as hell, that was the case. The water pipes were all blowed out and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
We finally ended up tracking down the old woman that owned the place, and she agreed to rent it. And I told her I'd fix it up for the first and security.
Okay.
which I did.
Seems fair.
But there was this one bedroom at the top of the stairs that was always cold. We made that little dentist's room. We didn't know it at the time.
Was that the sacrifice? was that the sacrifice?
Oh, come on, quit being a wise ass. Let me tell the story.
Yes,
So
Steve.
anyway,
Put him in a cold room. Nice.
This ghost used to turn the light on and off in the room just sporadically. You never knew when he was going to do it. And every now and then you'd hear creaking on the stairs and whatnot.
Spooky.
And it was weird, but we just kind of didn't know what to do about it. Well, one night we're all sitting down at the dinner table, and you remember them old pull knob TVs? Actually took about 7 pounds of force to pull the knob on it.
I sure do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had one of those, and this damn ghost turned the TV on in the middle of dinner.
Well,
That was enough. I was fed up at that point. So after supper, I went upstairs, and the light was on.
Yeah.
And I turned the light off, and I sat on the bed, and I says, when I found this place, it was a tumbleweed hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to fix it up to make a home for my family and for you, evidently. And if you don't knock it off, I'm going to pack everything up, and this is going to go back to tumbleweed hell. Well, all the stupid crap stopped happening that night.
Really?
So you can actually reason with the spirits.
Well,
sometimes, I suppose. I guess it depends what kind it is, right?
I
definitely believe in all that stuff.
No. I have had long and drawn out conversations with spirits. Right, all of the Glens, Glenlivet,
yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Right?
Jack
Daniels, Jim Beam, Jameson. Long drawn out conversations.
So now I have to ask you guys: do you believe in afterlife or spirits, ghosts, anything like that? Demons, angels?
What I believe is that I am not smart enough to know the answers to those questions.
Yeah,
it's a good answer.
Yeah, I'm probably the same. I mean,
Okay.
I don't disbelieve any. I mean, anything could be true.
I've seen some things that could be construed as supernatural.
Yeah.
However, none of them have conformed to any sort of repeatable model.
Yeah.
Right. So
you can't study it, right? So you can't
be
prove
like,
it.
I can't be like, that was definitely a ghost.
Yeah.
Right. So or that was definitely some sort of supernatural interaction.
I think I've just heard so many stories, and I've had, some creepy encounters myself.
Yeah.
Nothing has happened to me that I'm like, crazy, overwhelming evidence, right? But I have heard some stories from people that is like crazy, overwhelming evidence. And I think to discount every single one of those people as crazy, I think is unfair. Some of the things like, oh, maybe we can explain this. Some of the things definitely cannot be explained. Like those people had very real, vivid experiences with something.
Well, there are clinical definitions for things like you hear voices in your head talking to you, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And yet this is also the definition of somebody who's been filled with spirit and is communicating with their gods.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, there's malevolent spirits and benevolent spirits.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that humans are weird, and there might be some humans that are all about, yep, this happened to me. I'm telling you what I saw and what happened. And then there's other people who are crazy.
I've been to about 4 different houses that I can tell you about that were haunted, and I've had weird things happen. And all I can logically do as a human is draw on the information that's been presented to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Not the crap I hear, what I see and what I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Major Payne, did you change the circuit breakers in the electrical box because the lights were flickering?
We didn't have circuit breakers.
Right.
This was the most dynamite fuses.
Fuse.
Post and knob.
Yeah. Put a penny. Just put a penny in there, and you.
Back in the day, you could take one and pull the fuse out when it blew, and put a penny behind it, and get 2 for the night.
Right. A penny would just exactly. Well,
you're just making a conductor.
Yeah.
Hey, Major, thanks for the call, man.
Thanks, Major.
It's interesting. Yeah.
He's always got something.
As far as
interesting.
ghosts and all that kind of stuff, this borders on somewhere between spiritual and supernatural, right? And so I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it because whatever I say, somebody else is going to say, no, you're wrong, or somebody else is going to be like, oh my God, I did that too. And I don't want to join a club I don't want to be part of like, oh, you saw it too, man. You're in our club now. I'm like, no, I don't. You know,
the survivors.
I have no desire to interact with people who may be crazy.
Yeah.
Right. This is why I try not to go around government facilities.
Yeah.
Right.
But
because these guys are all possessed with the spirit of quote patriotism unquote. Right.
Well, that's something you could see. I mean, I guess I guess people can. Some people they can see into the future. They probably have some other dimension that's running through them, or there's frequencies of light that other people can see that other people can't. I don't know.
I mean,
people are, some people are more sensitive to things than other people, right?
Mhm.
Like, light, touch, heat, all that kind of stuff. So, like, I can't say for certain that there's nothing out there, right?
Yeah.
In fact, it would be probably a poor exercise in brain work to say that, because there's no way to know. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I maintain an agnostic stance as much as I can when it comes to these types of things.
Yeah, I don't know. And I liked your answer where it's just like, I don't know. I don't have enough information.
It hasn't happened to me. I couldn't.
In either direction,
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I am with most things, like with God, spirituality, all of these universal uncertainties, even space, like things that maybe have been, proven by science. I haven't really seen that with my own eyes. I might believe it, right? But I'm going to take it with a grain of salt still. I'm open to it. And guess what? Whether space is real, whether the Earth is flat or it's a globe, like things like that actually doesn't really affect my day-to-day life right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to invest. Like, I feel like some people, especially with the flat earthers, they become so, overwhelmed with this thing, and they have to make these Facebook groups, and they're fighting with people on street corners. And it's like, one, most people think you're absolutely insane. So maybe like chill with that.
They become de facto religions.
Yeah, and it's just like, why does this thing matter? Even if the Earth is flat. Well, they're lying to us. They're lying to us about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Why is that the thing that you're stuck on?
I'm more concerned
what I mean?
about them lying to us about, like, reasons to go to war.
Yeah.
Exactly,
for example,
things
right?
that
That's
are
more
like
important.
affecting us, right? Or
we need
like
more chlorine in the pool.
I want to know like what's in the food and what's in the water supplies.
Right.
That's what I'm concerned. I'm concerned about like what's going on in my community, or the things that like actually affect us.
I personally have not been able to observe the Earth as flat or not. Right?
Yeah.
No.
Now, that doesn't. No, what do I believe? I believe it's not flat. Right?
That's
I believe
kind of what I'm
it is
leaning
orb
towards.
shaped and all that kind of thing. Now,
No, all the other planets are round. Earth is flat.
let's just.
It's
Well, the other planets
like
aren't
the
real.
There's no carbonation in the ocean.
All the other
Didn't you
burgers
listen to
around.
the Red Hot Chili Peppers song?
Which one?
Californication.
I don't know the lyrics.
The moon landing was made in a Hollywood basement.
Yeah.
No, that was done in London.
Foggy London town.
Yeah. What's his name? Kubrick did that. Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
The phone board is lighting up. If you think Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing in London,
you got to do this at the end of the show.
Is it London or Hollywood?
well, no, I think it was London.
Those are your two options.
And then
they
the
couldn't
Shining,
afford it. They actually had to film it in Canada.
Yeah, well, if you there's a website about The Shining, which was also done by Kubrick, and there's all types of There's all types of little clues in The Shining that they bring out. Like there's 6 cases of 7-Up because there were 7 rocket launches, but only 6 went up because one was.
And then
it's
then
like
okay, we're
the
really
Gemini
like reading
twins,
into this here.
The Geminis, the twins, and then the rocket ship, which is the rug that's hanging on the wall. I mean, there's all kinds of. And then
I'm not
Danny had
taking that as evidence.
You've
Well,
really,
it's
you've
not
really
evidence.
been down that rabbit hole.
Oh, I've been down.
Yeah, 'cause I'm like,
well, it's like
that's
going
like
on
a real stretch.
It's
for
like going
me.
on vacation. People go to vacation here, they go to vacation there, they go to there. They get little flavors of all the different countries. I get different different things from different.
I've been down the
conspiracies.
rabbit hole,
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah.
And
There's more than one rabbit hole though.
There's a whole bunch of
There's
them.
a whole bunch.
Yeah, no
Call
Especially
in now.
If you're on the internet. Yeah. Call in now. 603 Rabbit.
Yes.
That's not the number.
If you've seen The Shining, call
That's
in.
not the number. 603-283-6160. So, with regards to...
Did we ever get to the Ferrari?
We did not.
Oh. Coming up
should,
after this.
We should mention the Ferrari, I guess.
You've teased it. Come on.
This from Bitcoin.com. Ferrari starts accepting crypto payments for luxury sports cars.
Wow.
No,
Cool.
it's not Lambo time, all you Bitcoin bros out there in listener land.
Bugatti.
Ferrari.
That's been the thing, Yeah, and then when Bitcoin moons, we Lambo. Right?
Have any of them Lamboed?
I don't know.
Don't think so.
I have not seen any libertarians with Lamborghinis.
No.
They probably wouldn't drive one anyway.
But
I would. I absolutely would. Absolutely.
But if you had one, A, you got to have a garage, right? You're not going to buy something like that and not have it in a garage. B,
hopefully you have a nice house before you're buying a Lamborghini. But no judgment. I'm a car person, so I get it.
Totally crap house as long
as there's a garage.
As long as there's a garage that works.
I would never own one because the property taxes would be too high. I don't want to pay the property taxes
on the Ferrari,
on a beat up farmhouse.
No, on a Lamborghini.
Oh, property tax
or sales tax, whatever.
Sales tax,
whichever one.
Luxury tax, whatever.
That's why you have to buy it in New Hampshire.
Well, yeah, and then register in Montana.
Get
Montana plates for
your
that thing.
04 Lamborghini.
It's still worth $150,000.
Probably. That'll,
I'm trying to remember what kind of car it was. It was I don't even know. It was, like a Ford Escort or something, right? Somebody bought like one of the first ones, right?
Yeah, something really fancy.
Maybe it was a Chevy. It was whatever. It was like
Chevy Citation.
Yeah, it was like one of the first front-wheel drive cars. I just happen to know that the Chevy Citation was the first front-wheel drive GM car.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Wow. A little piece of history
but
for
it
you.
wasn't. It wasn't. Somebody bought it was the Ford version, whatever.
Yeah.
And they drove it into their basement as their house was being constructed, and then finished building the house around it so the car could never leave.
That's hilarious. Why?
And it was in mint condition with 1 mile on it or whatever.
Worth millions.
So, years later, collector's item, 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Following the news this week that recording artist and industry magnate Bob Dylan would be laying off 2,000 workers from his Muscatine, Iowa songwriting factory in an effort to streamline his music-making operations, The Onion spoke with veteran factory worker Travis Felton, who received a pink slip earlier today.
I've been working on the lyric assembly line for 25 years now. Punch in each and every morning, make sure the words are complex and poetic. And yesterday, the foreman calls me into his office to tell me that the company is reducing headcount. They're giving the whole rhyming section the boot. What Mr. Dillon and the other suits don't understand is that here in Muscatine, songwriting is all we have. And we've been doing the best damn Dylan songs in the world for over 50 years, and now they're trying to take that away from us. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. Well, I guess I could see if they're hiring over at the Tom Petty factory in Hurstville. Lord knows I hoped it'd never come to that.
This is the Onion News Network.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. US President Joe Biden held phone calls on Sunday with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. He expressed support for Israel to defend itself, but also concern over it abiding by international law and protecting civilians as the ground invasion continues. But Biden also calling on Israel to abide by international law and also protect the lives of civilians, and also to Egypt's President el-Sisi, talking about the support to make sure that Palestinians aren't displaced in huge numbers out of Gaza. Egypt and other regional countries do have a concern there could be huge numbers of refugees coming out of Gaza if this conflict carries on for much longer. Well, Israel continues to expand its ground and air attacks on Gaza as it moves forward in its invasion to try and wipe out Hamas. The UN is calling the humanitarian situation catastrophic. People in Israel are also continuing to push for the release of hostages being held in Gaza. Here's Sarah Coates from Tel Aviv.
Now, as these negotiations over a prisoner swap reportedly continue, so too do demonstrations right around the country as people demand more from the Israeli government, saying it should be its first priority, bringing back these 229 people who are reportedly being held underground in the Gaza Strip. Demonstrators waving flags and placards saying war has no winners, bring them home now, and hostage swap now. Meanwhile, rockets continue to rain down on parts of Israel, including the center and the south, reportedly causing a lot of damage to a number of residential buildings, while in the north, cross-border skirmishes continue with Hezbollah militants. Israel says it has fired a surface-to-air missile, responding with fire over the Lebanese border, really ratcheting up tensions in the region amid fears an all-out regional war could spill over.
Matthew Perry, one of the stars of the epic sitcom Friends, has been found dead at the age of 54. The police say no foul play is suspected. Perry gained international fame playing Chandler Bing on the US show for 10 years, but had a public struggle with addiction.
I'm not great at the advice. Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?
As Chandler Bing, Matthew Perry brought joy to many millions of people around the world, playing the geeky, awkward, sarcastic character on the show Friends. It first aired from 1994 to 2004, but is still being replayed and rewatched avidly by fans looking for a laugh. But in his private life, Perry struggled with drinking and drug use over many decades. He spent more than half his life in treatment and rehab. Perry was found unresponsive in a hot tub in Los Angeles. He was 54 years old. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Halloween. This is as close as we're getting to Halloween.
This is Halloween. This is Halloween. Halloween.
So yeah, Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's me, Captain
Steve Classic,
and Nikki.
We're all very understated right now.
No.
I don't know why. We're just doing stuff.
Talking about
This
Ferraris.
is just the vibe.
We're gonna talk like this for a while. I don't know why.
I don't know.
It's Halloween.
Because if we talk like this, it'll be too loud. Shh. That's why.
Free Talk Live.
So Free Talk Live listeners, before we get to your calls, we are asking you for a favor.
Please.
Perhaps even two favors. Go to freekeen.com. Scroll down to the article about how to write letters to Ian Freeman while he's in jail. And write him a frickin' letter. Same thing for Aria. Go to ariademezzo.com.
Don't use crayon.
Don't use crayon. No. Type it.
You don't
write
even
it
have
with
to
a pen, blue or
scroll
black.
On Aria's
In
website,
cursive.
it's just right there.
Yeah.
Like how to write her in prison, what her, how to address the letter properly, what her inmate number is, and all
She
that
loves letters.
She
I'm
does.
sure Ian does too.
They both do.
Letters
So,
are fun.
If you, even if you're like, I don't know what I would say, like,
Say
tell
whatever
about
you
your
want. Who
life,
cares?
call it a journaling. Just imagine you have a pen pal and, write something. Send those guys letters because they're in prison.
Yeah.
So it's really the least you can do. If you've enjoyed the show over the years that they've been the hosts and the founder and all that kind of thing.
If you appreciate the activism that they did and the sacrifices they made,
yeah,
should probably write them at least saying thank you and showing some appreciation. If you feel that, if you feel appreciative,
yeah,
would be nice.
So
Might cheer them up.
If all y'all could do that, we would appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all.
Let's go to some of your calls and thoughts. We've got Max calling. Max, where are you calling from today?
I'm actually in Merrimack, New Hampshire. Are you guys able to hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, I hear you guys awesome. I'm using my new Sony Bluetooth headphones.
Cool.
So I didn't know if they were better or worse.
No, it sounds good. Normally, we have bad luck with people using Bluetooth and headphones and stuff like that.
I do hear
but
just a little bit of something in the background, but I'm an audiophile, so we're fine for the radio. What's on your mind?
Oh, so this Halloween, October 31st, they have scheduled the ranked choice vote for people who believe in voting and people who just vote third party and independent. Ranked choice voting is important because it lets you rank your candidates. So you get a 3-way race or a 4-way race. People can, let's say, list Libertarian candidate is the first choice, the Constitution Party is the second, the Green Party is the third. However they want to vote, that's up to them. As usual, there's some resistance from certain people on the committee, but we also have a lot of support for ranked choice voting now on House election law. Obviously, my preferred one I've called before about this is approval voting. And approval voting just lets you mark, you can mark any candidates. You don't rank them in order. There's nothing to figure out. Fargo, North Dakota, and St. Louis have approval voting. But in general, anything is better than first past the post. So if you're a believer in the third party movement or independent candidates, or if you don't believe in third parties, that's an important one. You can just call anyone on the House Election Law Committee and ask them to support. I believe it's House Bill 345.
Okay.
Don't know what it is. It's only 3 votes. There are only three bills coming up on the 31st on Halloween.
Is this for primary voting, or is this for the general election?
So I believe the way that they mentioned it to me is that it would be for all elections in general. I think that the presidential primary is the one that really needs something like ranked choice voting. So I don't know if I think only a couple of the well-known Republican candidates on the presidential side support re-legalizing marijuana, but they're generally, in my experience, Republicans are generally pretty good on other issues, but when it comes to ranked choice voting, or it comes sometimes even to drug policy or sex workers, anything controversial, they tend to avoid that stuff.
I have a question about ranked choice voting.
Okay.
What do you do when all of the candidates are rank?
Oh my gosh!
And I'm only half joking, right? Like, the thing that
I've
most
had races where there were 3. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I most dislike about the act of voting is, first of all, I was not a part of this process where people decided that that's how decisions were going to get made. Second of all, I find that voting is just a popularity contest and a ridiculous way to choose somebody who's supposedly the leader of whatever the local government, the national government, et cetera, and so on.
How are we supposed to choose then?
So,
if you don't like voting,
none of these options take into account that everybody could suck.
Yeah, right.
And they're probably all ugly.
Right, and so that's what I mean about ranked choice voting. Does it have an option for when all of the candidates suck?
No, you basically you can write in Mickey Mouse. 50,000 people a year write in Mickey Mouse. You can write in Ron Paul. I think that Ron Paul also gets like 50,000 or however many votes every year. Just write in Ron Paul.
So it's no different from the regular voting. You're stuck with the lesser of 2 evils or whatever it is, 5 evils, depending on how you rank your candidates. Okay, I got it.
Well, but under this, you could vote Ron Paul is my first choice. Then you could write in Gary Johnson. That's my second choice. Then you could write in whatever, Frederick Douglass is your third choice if you wanted. Well, I mean,
RuPaul.
Frederick Douglass
RuPaul. Or RuPaul Newman.
Well, yeah, you can write in whomever you want. You write in any candidate. But my point is, I believe that it's your ballot. It's kind of like a letter to the editor. Your one vote probably isn't going to swing anything bigger than a state house race, although we have about a dozen recounts every year in legislative races.
Yeah.
It's not about, sending it one way or the other, or winning or losing, or whatever. You're not going to win because you're not on the ballot. I mean, I've won because I was on the ballot, but most of the time when I go in and vote, I'm telling everyone, it's like a letter to the editor. This is the Liberty candidate. Yeah, he doesn't have any, chance. But with approval voting, ranked choice voting, instant runoff voting, you can vote for like the Libertarian or Constitution candidate as your first choice. And then you could vote for somebody else as your second choice.
Okay.
And so what's the point? So it's like, not like a wasted vote. You know how people say that, you can't vote third party because they have no chance and it's a wasted vote. This way,
Yeah, but your vote is wasted no matter what you do because if your guy wins on the recount, then there are going to be some status thugs or lawyers or whatever, and they're going to be like, well, let's throw this out and try to do another recount so we get our guy.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, other than on legislative races, which, we all know legislative races actually affect your daily life way more than some presidential race.
Yeah.
I think that the presidential races kind of suck. And I don't even know, I was going to endorse one of the I was going to endorse one of the candidates for president because I'm a former state rep, and people have been asking me who they want, who they should vote for.
I'm not asking.
Or asking but people do ask us when we're current and former state reps because they know that we spend more time in it. I haven't found any candidates who are like really full on about supporting ending the drug war, re-legalizing marijuana. I respect people who support decrim, but I think objects should not be illegal. Things should not be illegal. Marijuana should not be illegal. Firearms should not be illegal. Objects, we shouldn't be sending people to prison because they have something in their car,
right,
or they have something in their pocket, or they have something in their house.
Yeah, possession, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And if you look at the vast majority of people who speak out consistently about police corruption and prosecutorial misconduct and whatnot, they eventually get targeted by some crooked prosecutor or who knows, Department of Justice or something, and they go after them.
Or like,
shut them up.
Like the FBI going after a talk radio founder. Yeah. We're familiar.
Yeah, well, there's another one. I was another one. But what I'm telling you is I think that victimless crimes really are at the core of so much of the corruption in our political system.
Oh, by a long shot. Yeah,
every
absolutely.
But I think that really is the core, as much as, warfare, as much as the tax system, as much as the IRS going after people.
I mean, to me, the problem with corruption is that the system itself is corruption. Right, because three guys can't have more rights than one guy, right? Two guys can't have more rights than one guy. 100 guys can't have more rights than one guy. So where do these politicians get these extra rights from? Just because they won a popularity contest?
They're officials. They're the authorities.
So in the same way, I think who was it? Maybe it was Cal Pratt who said, "I view voting as strictly an act of self-defense and nothing more."
Yeah.
And it's strictly about my, or as a constitutional conservative, it's my responsibility to vote to do something in the same way if we were ever attacked by communist China or something like that. So it's our job to take up arms in defense of our country. In the same way, it's our job as free thinking people to go to the polls, March, November, September, November. They might move the state primary up to August. I don't know. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Your state primary vote's way more important, which is why LibertyBallot.com is so important. But I've actually found some Liberty folks who will vote in the state primary.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with you on.
They won't show up in November.
Right, I'll agree with you on voting. An argument can be made that voting can be effective as an act of self-defense. So we have that. It's also a very effective platform for people who want to spread the message of liberty. So, Ron Paul, that kind of a thing, right? Even though he never won, Ron Paul made more anarchists than any other candidate has ever done. So, hey, Max, thank you so much for the call. We appreciate you. Let's move on now. Let's go to, we've got Greg in New York. Greg, you're on Free Talk Live. Greg in New York, are you muted?
Are you there?
Are you there? Are you there? Greg, are you there? Greg, will you please pick up the phone? Yeah. All right. Well,
I don't think so.
Greg, something's wrong, so if you can hear me,
next time.
call us back. I want to go back to the voting thing for just a minute. When did voting become a thing for governments, right? Because
probably pretty recently, right? Because before that system, before whatever.
Well, it used to be like religions and like kings.
Yes, you were born into it.
Right?
You know what I
and
mean?
There was no vote. It was a monarchy.
No,
right?
it was
that kind of a thing.
the firstborn son, usually of the pre-existing king. It was just, and I would say,
hereditary dictatorship.
That's worse than democracy. I think so.
There's an argument to be made that a benevolent dictator would be the best way if you're going to have government.
Yeah, at least it's somebody's.
Unless you don't
at least
like the
they're
guy.
taking somebody's opinion into the other way. It's just we just worship this guy blindly just because he has royal blood and he's super inbred or whatever. But at least if you're voting, it's okay, well.
I mean,
you're still forcing your will on somebody else, but.
Right. That's my point. And that actually violates the non-aggression principle. So voting in that respect violates the NEP because you are forcing your opinion.
I don't know.
Or you're getting together with
dramatic.
A bunch of other people forcing your opinion on the minority of people, right? Because that's how voting works, Right?
Yeah, I don't know if I would call
51%
that a violation of the
versus
NAP.
49. Are you forcing your opinion on other people?
Yeah, but
Yes,
it's
you
not
are.
like
That's a
physical
violation
force.
of the non-aggression principle.
I mean, you could have two sets of laws. You know, if you look at it as two parties, like I voted for a Democrat. Well, I want to follow what my congressman is. I don't know how that's possible, though.
Well, and like
Yeah, it'd be
or the
tricky,
Democrat
but
president.
it could be possible. Like, I want to live my life this way. You want to live your life that way. We don't even
Right.
need laws. Let's just skip that part. Let's simplify it. Just do whatever you want. Just don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. Boom!
Hey.
I fixed it,
Applesauce.
everybody.
No voting
I
involved.
fixed the government. Yay!
Let's try this one more time. It's Greg in New York. Or is it?
Hey.
Hey, he's here.
And he's back.
Welcome.
And he's back.
And
yes.
he's back.
All right. Welcome,
I'm back,
Greg.
baby. I'm back. Your fellow anti-war libertarian here. Just all the sectarian violence, it's insane. And it's all because of state aspirations.
Right.
So let me work backwards from today. No, let me work backwards from like this hour. So I just see on Twitter, a large group of black Hebrew Israelites have attacked a group of Palestinians and far-left anti-Israel protesters in Chicago. The black Hebrew Israelites are a black supremacy group which believes that the Afro-Americans are the real Israelites. This is a tweet happened right now.
You know what I've never heard,
Yeah.
Greg? You know what I've never heard?
What?
A large group of rebel atheists have attacked from their stronghold. Sorry, I just had to put that out there.
I mean, yes, and then there is, of course, the Muslims in Dagestan, which is a Russian province or a Russian republic in the Caucasus.
Okay.
They have been a mob of people looking to spill some Jewish blood, find the Jew. They have broken into the airport recently, and I think they have found a Jew. But again, this is just going on. The sectarian violence is inflamed. And so this is what I wanted to call in and talk about this time.
Yeah.
Imagine sending weapons to a region, and the region has, groups that want to use those weapons for their different goals. Well, this is the history of how these conflicts start.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been saying why I was against flooding Ukraine with weapons.
Yep.
And some of those weapons ended up, by the way, in Hamas hands. There's videos of weapons sold in the black market.
Well,
then they go there.
and when the U.S. left, was
Afghanistan.
it Afghanistan? Didn't they just leave a whole bunch of stuff behind?
Supposed to blow it up.
Yeah, we're the ones that funded a lot of the Mujahideen, which is a general term for, essentially a Muslim fighter to spread Islam against others, attack. But here's the thing, is that we, flood the region, and so does Iran. Like, it's not just us. Iran and some of the Gulf countries were helping Gaza by sending them weapons. Does that make the civilians any safer ever? No, of course not. And the militant groups are the ones that use the weapons. They disarmed everyone in Gaza. They took their guns, and no civilian can actually stand up to them. But of course, they get all the weapons. So it's like foreign meddling, sending weapons to a region, and they're like, whoopsie, look at that. They're using the weapons in the wrong way, or maybe the right way, depending on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
But the losers are the civilians. The losers are always, and then
always,
always.
Yeah, they shoot the rockets. Let's say they shoot the rockets at Israel, and Israel responds back to the place where they shot the rockets from. Lo and behold, they had women and children right in that area. Wow. And it's like, I don't think these groups whose leaders live in Qatar and other areas sipping on champagne while this is happening, they never seem to be in that area themselves, right?
And they also don't care. I think they don't care if civilians and if there's other casualties. They don't care if it hits a hospital. They don't care if children die. They really they don't care.
That attitude comes back home too with people who are incessantly trying to be correct on the internet, more correct than their friends are, or getting these long diatribe arguments on Twitter or any other social media that sentiment is just like, look, if you're so concerned about the situation over there and you think you know what to do about it, get your ass over there.
Go do it.
Yeah, get on a plane, buy a ticket, pack a bag, and go.
And you know what? And I think this is true of a lot of different wars. People, like, it's almost like a spectator event. Like, it's like a football game to some people. Like, it's not real. And a lot of people are commenting on it like it's a joke. And I think... And it always really disgusts me, and it never really bothered me so much until recently. I think until this like recent war. Maybe I just didn't notice it or see it. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. But it's really been sickening for me to see some of the comment. And I'm, maybe I can't take a joke or whatever. But it's really disturbing that people are on the internet joking about women and children. I mean, not like women are better than men, but joking about people dying. Yeah. Like, this is real. This is affecting people's lives. Like, this is a horrible, awful thing. And to act like, oh, well, I know the right answer, or I know the right side, or to make jokes about it. Like, I saw one girl posting like some like slutty outfit, and she's like, if the girlies get drafted, this is what I'm wearing. Okay, well, if you wear that, you're gonna be dead pretty soon. It's just stuff like that. Like, maybe I'm losing my humor. Obviously there was no ill intent by it. She was just trying to make a joke, but it's like, there are people dying right now, and you're gonna post some picture like that, and it's just like, come on, like.
It sounds like you might also be anti-war, like Greg.
Yeah, I think so. Possibly.
As we come of age, I feel like I lose faith in like half the human race when I see people. It's like their only concern is like, are you pro Group A or are you pro Group B?
Right.
And it's like, you're such a monster because you are pro Group B, and it's like, you guys are both like talking about dead civilians, like, yes, our team is winning. And it's like, dude, like, stop flooding the area with weapons. That's part of it. That's a huge part of it.
Right.
It always precedes the conflict, and the conflict is always worse for the civilians. So it's like, I'm on the side of civilians every single war, and every single war is like, hey, what about the civilians? And the reason I start to lose faith in a lot of humanity is when they're like, F the civilians. They, it's their fault for living there.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous, right?
Well, like, in the United States, I mean, we can't, like, what can you really do? Well, like you said, except for like go over there and start fighting for a team. You can't really do anything except see the news and try to figure out what everything is. But I think the other thing you were saying is like all this, what happened, like people were attacking each other in Chicago. Or if you look at, the violence that's happening in Brooklyn because people are taking sides. And it's like its own little Israel-Palestine war in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And if that
it's
spills
like, how
over,
is that helping?
They were doing something in, was it San Francisco too, where a bunch of protesters flooded the streets?
How is protesting in the United States helping anything? And it's not going to change Biden or whoever's holding the puppet strings. Right. It's not going to change their mind about what the money is doing or where it's at. Like, I don't know. It's just not. It's making it worse here, and it's bringing the conflict and the unrest here.
Right, but if that gets
it's not
hot,
positive.
But if that gets hot and it starts, spilling over from these protests and shootings, and really gets, now you've got, police, and then you've got like maybe National Guard keeping it. That boils over into other parts of the country.
Absolutely.
And then who knows if there's sleeper cells here? Who knows? That's another thing.
And look, it might, and by the way, it might be the libertarian in me or the anarchist. I don't care which flag is over which territory, pretty much. But the solution that could work is always the same. It's like step one, ceasefire, stop shooting and killing people, civilians, get the most of it. And then two is involve a bunch of countries and do something called diplomacy and arguing.
Right.
And use
Right.
court.
Wouldn't that be
Use
great?
court. Yeah. And discuss. And you know what? It's not the end of the world if one group decides to have its roads named after something or have a flag over there. If that's the only difference and it's an administrative change, like road signs get changed, that's great. And they can have freedom, of movement and free trade. But if you don't do anything and all you're talking about is Group A versus Group B and how could you be on the side of Group B, then nothing ever gets solved. And I think that's what people are still in the 21st century, is still in that mindset.
Hey, Greg, thank you for the call. We appreciate you. Greg is spot on. I'm anti-war. I have been near as long as I can tell. I remember Gulf One, right? Bush won, was heading things up at that point.
Yeah.
And that whole like draft scare came around. I was draft age around Gulf One. And
but they'll never be able to pull off a draft. They've got to do it. They've got to do something that'll get people
never say
9/11.
never.
Well,
I mean,
not never, but it failed miserably.
Swipe of a pen, they could just be like, okay,
they could do it, right? But I think the people who will volunteer after something happens in the quote unquote homeland, like 9/11, like I signed right up after that. Those Arabs,
I'm a
blah,
patriot.
blah, blah. And then everyone's waving flags, and so something's got to happen to the United States to suck us in. It's got to be another Pearl Harbor style thing, another 9/11. It's got to be another false flag here in the U.S. Gulf of Tonkin, USS Liberty, whatever. I mean, you just keep going on and on and on. So something's going to happen in the United States to get people, yay, rah, rah, USA, USA, and people will sign up and they'll do whatever.
It's so sad.
They're being tricked into it.
It is so sad. I remember they showed whenever Desert Shield changed to Desert Storm, right? It went from defensive to offensive, right? Yeah. They rolled out a bunch of people in their pickup trucks, the cheerleaders, if you will, and it sickened me. We're out of time. Thank you to all of our callers. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Steve Classic, for joining me tonight. Thank you to all of our listeners, of course. If you missed any part of tonight's program, please find the archives over at freetalklive.com. Thanks and peace.
The United States federal government are doing everything they can to destroy the New Hampshire economy. As it stands, according to the World Bank, New Hampshire's per capita GDP is number 12 in the world, higher than the United States as a whole. However, every day the people of New Hampshire are feeling the effects of failed federal policies, with runaway inflation, high gas and food prices, and more of us are slipping underwater. Imagine your tax dollars staying right here in New Hampshire, instead of being sent to D.C. to be spent on wasteful programs that you didn't vote for and you don't want.